Hey there, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome into Smite Prime here on the week of June 3rd. Well, I guess it's not the week of June 13th because it's the end of the week. It's the day of June 13th. My name's Gormizer, and joining me today is going to be Malum as we get through another fun week of some Smite 2.
I'm in the music box.
You're in the music box. How are you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good. It smells like Kerberos in here. That's my number one comment. It smells like Kerberos. It smells like YouTube comments. There's a whiff of
each more thing you
sympathy.
add, it sounds...
Yeah, see,
I don't know.
It's gonna that turns it around.
We're somewhere in the middle ground, definitely. But of course, again, today we're going to be watching some a lot. Wow, a lot. Let's just get into that. It's going to be a lot up front. But what are they playing for? That's going to be the big deal. Pricing. It's money. They are playing for stuff, and that is exactly what you've got going for it. Of course, as you've seen in the past, right? 16th, 13th, 20th is all of the, well, I guess like qualifying stages to go into that final week towards the end. $5,000 on the line for today. Of course, this is week number 2. As you see, the 13th is the second one, which means that last week there was a lot of Smite that was going on, and a lot of Smite that you could have or maybe did tune into. If you didn't, this is about as good as you're going to get until you go watch the VODs. That's going to be the I guess, the next stop for you after today to try and figure out what was going on. Malum, a lot of interesting matchups that came through, but of course, whenever you see this, my eyes immediately, when we're looking week to week and we're looking at things like this, I always zone in on where the finals were and what was going on during the semis, because those are the 4 teams, I guess, if you add into the semis, that, you know, you really keep your eye on week to week, and like you really kind of remember the names. You try to focus in on like what are they doing, whether you're a team that lost to them or a team that's trying to study on how to beat them. Like, that's where your focus needs to be. It seemed like a really action-packed week, though.
It was. I think the biggest thing is the Smite world got introduced to the hydrogen bomb. They arrived, and the way they did was remarkable and jumped up to instantly the undeniable best team. I mean, plain and simple to me. I don't really know what world you can argue against that point. They have most of the top players in each role, and it showed. So instead of this race to be clocked in every week like we've had in the past, now it's this race to catch up to the hydrogen bomb. But, and as we'll kind of get into today, that doesn't really factor in today. There is no hydrogen bomb to worry about. So this bracket just got opened completely up to anyone really who could, in theory, make a run today. And I think if you're an underdog team in particular, today is your day, because there isn't that big, scary, unstoppable hydrogen bomb, and you're no longer the coughing baby. You get to wear the bomb costume.
But only the costume, right? Like,
yes, only the costume. Only the costume.
Learn. You've got to step up. I don't know. It's going to be something interesting to see what these teams have when you do take a powerful force like that off of the field. Like you said, it changes the dynamic. It changes a lot of the matchups. Honestly, it can change your outlook on the day, which can change how you're playing on the day, because you're not thinking, yeah, but I mean, we're just going to end up against these guys. Is it really going to matter? Like, you're going to be focused up. You're going to be able to continue pushing forward. So it is something I'm really excited to see. Like you said, when you take something maybe that powerful away from the equation and open it up for some of these others. But as we've mentioned, as you've heard us say several times so far, as we've seen, the June circuit is happening every single Saturday this month. There's also some stuff going on Sundays. Yeah, exactly. What you need something to complete the weekend. It's not a full Smite weekend if there's not Smite on both days, which is why the Summer Bash is going on. You're going to be able to start watching that actually starting tomorrow. And as you see, it'll go towards August 1st. There's a nice big prize pool for that one. Starting early, because it's a European Joust tournament, bright and early, or at least the EU Joust tournament is bright and early at 9 a.m. So if you're watching this live, this is noon Eastern. So figure that, I guess, wherever you are. It's going to be 3 hours earlier than where we're starting right now. So make sure that you're going to be there. And of course, the other thing that's really big right now is the fact that Horus is available to play. And if you want to learn him,
let's go.
Which you should, because learning Horus, in my experience, as someone who has been watching since the god released, it is a very good god to usually have in the back pocket. Then you should go learn to play him on the Smite Prime YouTube for the Gods of Smite 2 video that you can see. So you can go learn everything you need. Malum, what is the thing that you've learned the most about Malice?
Ooh, okay.
Did I say Malice
I think
instead
the
of
biggest.
Horus?
Yeah, you did.
I meant Horus.
I followed, though. I followed. I had your back. Also, can we talk about the 9 a.m. start time for EU Joust? Because that takes me all the way back to the Founder series, the non-verbal 9 a.m. calls. Those were the best. The biggest thing with the Horus video that I was watching, well, first of all, some of my gameplays in the background, so judge it as harshly as you would like. But the biggest thing watching through it is that Mort is a demon in jungle practice, and you've got to watch out if you're the totem bot.
Okay, eyes on totem bot and making sure
no he fits this niche that we had. I feel like there was a nice niche for a support that could be that mobile and give you that flexibility, plus the ultimate in Smite 2 with how fast that ult can go is just very, very, very dangerous. And as we look at our day, see how it progresses through, the further we get into the bracket, the more I think the Horus will matter. There's not that many gods today on the banned content list. If I'm not mistaken, the only true banned god is the Morgan, with Atlas aspect, of course, not being around, and Chiron aspect not being an option either.
And worth mentioning, playing on OB36, right? And like you said, with Horus available, like, creates some interesting dynamics. A couple of these teams that have bye rounds that are already sitting and waiting in those quarterfinals for this round of 16 to crash through. But like you mentioned, and I think is worth, again, just breaking into, no hydrogen bomb, which means a lot of open possibilities laying in this bracket. Is there any team that you're kind of keeping your eye on now, knowing that, I guess, a big force that would have originally probably removed them is just gone?
Yeah, I think the easiest one for me to look at, with the options are plentiful. I mean, I feel like we saw Single Bind have a really impressive showing very recently too, and I think we heard so much about just how clean their play was, especially the step up from Lairs, who looked fantastic in the jungle. But, and maybe there's a hair of bias to this, one of my favorite teams to watch play, one of my favorite teams to watch in picks and bans, Hostile Takeover. One of the teams we're looking at to start the day, always one of my favorite teams to watch. Oh, look at that! That's insane. You you can take the chair one out of and put him in chair two, but you can't take the mentality away, baby. But no, Ratmilk and Tegvir are switching it up. Tegvir is going to ADC, as we've become accustomed to. Ratmilk in the jungle role. This team's played together for years now in different iterations and kind of compositions of their roster, but Ratmilk and Tegvir have been back grinding through rank together. I think Ratmilk's going to get more comfortable as we go on, and I think it's easy to forget just how strong this roster has looked even in this format in the past. I
would have to go look it up, and I'm going to be honest, at this point, I don't know where I would have kept it, so there's a good chance that I could never find it, and that's why I'm not going to actively do so. But I feel like Ratmilk as well is one of those junglers that has always stood out in my mind, specifically because I feel like there was either a segment of a season, but there was a point where bro was dropping pentas and quads. It felt like once a week, every week. Like, it was just very, very often, again, high kill count, high presence. And so, of course, something to remember. And I'm also admittedly a little interest in the drafting for Hostile Takeover, and it's just because when you have some of these players, I'm not going to name names, but looking towards, maybe the mid lane, you've got some, let's call it variety, right? You've definitely got some spice that can be thrown into the mix and things that can be different than anybody expects, including ourselves, but we'll probably get into that when they start locking things in. For now, we can look through the bans. You got, your Aladdin, you've got your Tsukiyomi, your Horus, which, I guess kind of sucks that immediately available, immediately taken out. Your Cerberus, or if you're in the Musi box, I guess you can say your Kerberos, your Thor, your Aphrodite.
Yeah, my Kerberos.
And it's going to be Newt up at
I want
the
to
top.
know what he feels. I want to feel the YouTube comments with the pitchforks and the knives. I want to be the target.
You want to be in that position, like actively. You're choosing this.
Yes, exactly. So, with the Newt first lock-in, I'm kind of... Come at me! I'm not surprised to see the first lock-in. I feel like Newt is in such a strong spot. Notably, all these changes coming out to double stacking, those are a little bit here in the future. So still at the moment, just kind of ridiculous to go into and tough to figure out. But on the other end of it, with the response, you see the hover of the Hou Yi. he's in a fantastic spot too. And what's interesting about Hui is he kind of is a bit of a double threat at the moment. His aspect is ridiculous for what it does to wave farm, how it fights in the jungle, and his base form is still just as good. I was playing it last night. You combo it with the Yamoja. You talked about kind of the skill gap and seeing Horus perform at certain levels. Yamoja has always been that character, right? You put it on the side of Mushroom Kingdom, and I kind of like your chances in this instance. I think especially it plays great with the Hou Yi. I mean, let's talk about the level 5, right? In lane, you hit level 5, you can probably get a pick. I mean, you have mobility that can survive it in duo, potentially, but still, just a nasty, easy combination. If you don't know it, both of you press 4, then the Hou Yi ricochets, and they're probably going to die. That's, that's the math of it.
It seems like, and first off, Yamoja is one of my favorite gods, just period. But like you said, she is the absolute epitome of hit or miss. Either she is controlling the game and making you regret everything and ever letting her through, or she's a nothing burger and she has no impact on you. And it is dependent on the player. But like you said, as a combo, as the potential, this duo lane's going to be nasty if it gets off to the right start. So why not just go with a classic to try and combo it and shut it down? Sobek, who I'm not really unused to seeing, right? He's around all the time. He's always going to be present. I think he's just a great support. Neith, which admittedly, I guess, you have a lot of mixture going on over here. But Neith is not a god that I'm used to seeing outside of when I queue with Katie, because nobody really plays a ton of Neith outside of my wife, who I can't remember. I want to say 3 or 4 stars on the diamond in Smite 1. Like, a lot of time on that god.
I had the misfortune of running into Katie's Neith once. I believe it was actually in studio when I was playing in the hot seat. I think I was playing Freya into Katie's Neith. And look, I played well, but it still was a nightmare to get through. But what's cool about Neith at the moment, and I talked about this a little bit already, Newt brings so much flex potential. Neith does the same thing. You can go that blaster blow up Neith mid if you want. You could even bring that to ADC if you want to get a little bit gross with it. But the aspect Neith right now is so good. It's a little bit... complex isn't the right word. It's tough to keep that passive going and getting comfortable with it, kind of making sure you're hitting your weaves consistently and keeping that passive going. But once you get there, and once you're late and you're doing it naturally anyway, the amount of attack speed that you can get while still building items that are packing a punch, that's where Neith can get really, really disgusting. Now, on the other side, for Mushroom Kingdom, the Awelish knock up, but the Awelish lock in to answer a lot of what Hostile Takeover's gone, in particular, the Neith, right? That's the big thing here. I love that pickup. Plus, there's some tech here. In Smite 2, again, a lot of what I'm going to talk about today might be geared towards if you're tuning into Smite 2 for the first time. I know we've got skin drops going on, a lot of fun stuff, so timing-wise it can make some sense. In Smite 2, Ymir's wall causes a little bit of a knock-up. It can give him an escape, but it can knock somebody back. And there is a Wheelish tech where you can pull off of the Ymir wall. So locking that in gets real dangerous the later we go into the game. The other thing I want to mention is looking at the duo lane of Hostile Takeover. Let's presume it's the Neith and the Sobek, right? That level 2 gets really dangerous. Sobek in particular, once he gets level 2, you have that pluck online. If you can land the pluck, take them back to the wave, and then you can get stuck into a Neith route, things can get really dangerous, and if you can get a first blood into the pocket if you're Happen and Tegvir, that's how you run away with the game, just nice and easy.
Yeah, I feel like the early game, and this is almost always true for me, you focus on the duo lane because early kills, specifically whenever there's a Sobek, or if you added like a Ymir into the mix with an on her, any of the early kind of kill lanes, right? The things that are staple for ruining your day and ruining your morning and ruining the first 2 minutes of your gameplay so that your lane really just can't get off the ground. Anything that's built like that, which Sobek tends to factor into, that immediately draws my attention because the junglers, a level 3, level 5, that's going to be their spikes. Mid lane, maybe if the junglers come around at level 3 or level 5, but most of the time they just want to farm up. It's going to be something that I think causes a lot of trouble for either of these lanes, which also means that we'll probably end up seeing some of the jungle rotations over to duo pretty early on, especially because, like you said, depending on who's over there, and really not even depending on who's over there, but having a Wheelish on the board, having a Yamoja on the board, and a Ymir on the board, there is a lot of capability for distress coming from Mushroom Kingdom and causing Hostile Takeover to meet some speed bumps along the road that might otherwise go kind of smoothly because of their early game.
I like that you mentioned that. I'd love to see Ratmilk actually put some extra attention to duo. Karmic's playing Yorm. Karmic's used to playing on an island anyway. If you're Ratmilk, if you can go contest those first neutrals in duo and maybe try to work around that pluck of Happen and get an early pick over there, get yourself going. One, that plays to the style of Hostile Takeover. I feel like their signature has been Ratmilk getting picks for the backliners and leaving Karmic on an island anyway. So that'd be a good way to go about it.
Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's to jump into the game itself and, watch them and see what they give us to work with here. Hostile Takeover, wearing the blue shorts, coming down from the bottom, playing up towards the north. And it is going to be Benny Q on the Newton mid. It will be the Neath over there in the duo lane, as you were talking about. But the Emoja, I guess I didn't think about this too much when the Ymir got locked in. My brain logged it, but didn't necessarily latch onto it. Not exactly where I expected to see Gimoja, because I figured, we talked a little bit about how nasty that could be comboed with the Ho Yi. How do you feel about the duo and mid for Mushroom Kingdom right now?
So, Yamoja mid's pretty gross. What's weird about Yamoja mid, if you haven't seen it played or played into it too often, is you look at it on paper and you're like, but Yamoja's so good as support, especially for a player as talented as Tempo. But then all of a sudden what you're going to see is Yamoja's sitting at top damage and she will simply never give it back away. So you're giving up a few things, you're losing the stun, your bubble's working a little bit different as well, but it's so worth it just for the amount of damage you're outputting, especially combined with Bluestone. I know I talked about wanting to see Susano piloted by Ratmilk go duo lane. I wouldn't hate now to see some answers to mid to try to keep Chang'e Best down a little bit in the dirt and not let her get going. Because if you can let Chang'e Best get rolling on this Yemo mid, especially with the Bluestone, she gets a couple early picks, you're in some serious danger.
I feel like, not just the damage capabilities that you've highlighted, but the other half of it is still true. Like the team fight stuff, it still works late game, as it turns out. The Yamoja at base is still a Yamoja. So I agree with you. I think that doing exactly what they're doing right now, right? Having presence in mid, getting aggressive, getting the damage, and getting your first blood onto your jungler, onto the Susano. That's what you want to see.
That is exactly what you want to see, and you burned the Aegis of the MO as well. So now you can go right back and run it back again. Deja vu all over again if you're Ratmilk, and just keep on bullying them out.
But bullying, oh my god, the damage output for early game, just one level, just a little bit of difference. And it looks like Ratmilk will give it up, but realistically, I don't know if Ratmilk needed to. That was a lot in a little bit of area, but I value this, I think, the same way Ratmilk does. Farm is going to be a little more helpful right now, although now you've kind of knocked Shadow out of the game for a little bit. You've pushed them back into the base. Again, you've got that first blood. You've got a decent advantage. You're going to hit 5 first. That's a great, 30-second segment for the jungler here on Hostile Takeover.
It is, and it's even better than it looks on paper because Shadow had gone the Lucerne Hammer start. Another thing that's changing with the next patch, as there's just so much strength on that Lucerne Hammer. You buy the tier 1 first. You can kind of wait and save it there to eventually become a Titan's main. Then you, on your first back, are going to grab your starter item. But you're going to be lower on potions because you're using a lot of your gold, and to get all that slowed down now gives such a pacing advantage to Ratmilk, who also has a Lucerne Hammer, but also has the Warrior's Axe, which is going to feel great being further ahead.
Being able to start things up and maybe get aggressive over here. The one thing I think the Susano is bringing on the right-hand side of the map, really kind of anywhere on the side of the map, is that displacement, right? There's a lot of characters for Mushroom Kingdom that can deal with that. They have their own mobility to try and save themselves, but Ratmilk can just kind of stop you from being where you want to be and pull you into a lot of damage that happens very quickly. And so finding that balance, if you are pretty much anybody on Mushroom Kingdom, having to save some of your mobility to deal with the idea that you might just get pulled at any given time, it causes you to play differently. The alternative is you can drop it whenever you want, but you're always running the risk of something like this, getting pulled into a lot of damage, having a little bit of follow-up, but you need some more. And there it is from BennyQ to put Shadow down into the ground, and the second kill up on the board for the blue squad.
Like I said, pressure in mid is going to be your friend. You got that advantage early on. You were feeling good. Now you're getting the Newt ahead alongside the Susano. It cannot get any more ideal. You've traded a bunch of deaths back and forth now, too. One to the mid and one to the jungle. On top of that TKO we saw earlier, you notice still not level 5 for Shadow. So by the time you've hit level 5, Newt's already level 7. That's almost, at this point, put the brakes on it for a little bit. It's just all working so well for the jungle mid combo. I don't know. It can't go any better to start.
Ults are dropped right now over on left, but some good movement, specifically from Tegvir. The backflip over the wall gets you out of that and keeps the Neath going as far as it can. I want to go back to BennyQ, though, because exactly what you had talked about. Not just level 7, a level, I'm going to call it a level and a half ahead of the Emoja right now. But watching where BennyQ has been going, not afraid to just wander into Mushroom Kingdom's jungle, specifically because of the other half of what you highlighted. Shadow being knocked back, Shadow not having ult for so long, until pretty much just now. It allowed BennyQ to just kind of roam wherever BennyQ wanted, and that farm has made up a lot. Now you add a kill into the mix, both of them have an assist here for if you add in Rat Milk to the conversation. And it feels like they have been controlling these neutral camps pretty regularly. For a first 5 minutes of gameplay, great mid-jungle combo. Now you need to hope that it stands up over in solo. Good damage from Karmic, but the same can be said going the other direction. It seems like both solo laners kind of know a little better than to dive too deep. And it'll be a quick reset and a small break. 2,000 gold, though. Early on, 5 minutes in, is a wild lead to have, and BennyQ's walking over to solo lane, although I don't think anything's going to come out of it.
Yeah, just one in the firebrands, but something, that's how you start a game, right? This is exactly how you start a game if you're BennyQ on this Newt. Especially with the way BennyQ builds Newt, too. The faster you get online, the more disgusting it gets. He tends to go a lot of pen early, so you might see... The second item could be one of 3 things is where I'm going to lean. It could be a Staff of Mirrodin, could be the Totem to shred some protections, or the Ob Shard. And a lot of times I've seen Benny on Newt go Obsidian Shard into Totem, so you're kind of getting all of your pen out early. Going that Spear of Deso first, this isn't just a big jump of power for the Newt. It also gives so much benefit just from the passive if you're going to brawl, right? And we already have seen that BennyQ wants to play around Rat Milk, and they want to brawl in mid and get picks. So you're getting cooldowns back faster, you can keep fighting, and it just kind of keeps going. So we talked about Duo, that looked cool, but I'm all in on the mid trade.
What we haven't seen yet, though, is the combination. And maybe I'll hold that thought for a moment, because Karmic, despite being in control, is in a little bit of trouble, but look at me. I forgot Jormungandr's Jormungandr. One ult and you're clean on out of there. Meanwhile, BennyQ picks up a second kill in mid and keeps things running. I was going to say what we haven't really gotten to see is any sort of combo with Shadow yet. And so I was sort of hoping something was going to happen over there on right for Shadow's sake. Instead, it's Tempo that goes down and a Gold Fury that's now picked up for Hostile Takeover. Does not seem like this is going to be contested. Yamoja is in the neighborhood. You've got a Wheelish rotating in, but is this a good idea? And if you can get it over the wall, it's worth trying. But Rat Milk instead gets the kill. And now Pluck right back into the waiting arms of the squad. Good. A Wheelish pull gets someone into the fray, but it's not enough damage for a follow-up kill. Instead, you lose Chunga Best, and now running away, Great Aegis, Rat Milk taken down for the first kill on Mushroom Kingdom. But you've just taken so much in terms, everything you've lost, all to get one kill. Yeah, Shadow might get some of your farm, but that seems like a huge sacrifice for Mushroom Kingdom.
I can't believe Benny lived through that. He was standing in the middle of everybody and was just able to walk away like nothing happened. That went so horribly wrong for Mushroom Kingdom. You can see that spike in the charts. It already wasn't going good, but that big jump. I mean, the 4K gold is a disaster for sure. Okay, we're good. I got a little bit jump scared. Look, I know there's no ult for Shadow, but there's still a Neath and it's in a Wheelish. So my brain is pre-programmed to pause. Yeah, exactly. you already had this strong lead building, but that 4K gold is one thing. The experience is the scariest for me. It's just spiraling kind of everywhere. I don't know how you keep it clean.
Oh no.
Ooh.
Oh. Sometimes you live and die by the shell, and that's you live exclusively because of it. I want to say the thing that is standing out to me is the attempt, like that. I'm going to be honest, I didn't think that was a great presence from Mushroom Kingdom to start that fight. I'm incredibly impressed.
I agree,
with how it opened up, because at first it was Chang'e Best and kind of Shadow nearby, and then it actually evolved into a team fight. It didn't go their way, but the actual team fight part was a very stellar presence from them. The problem is now you've got a 203 a 213, which maybe is a little bit better than 203 on Rat Milk, but also a perfect support slash line. You know, your Neath gets a kill in the process. Like, hostile takeover, like you said, the experience and the gold combined with where those kills end up. Not a single kill for the solo lane just yet, although we haven't seen a rotation from Karmic yet. And the no kills accidentally scooped up by Happen sets it up for the perfect setup to walk right into a tier 1, cause a lot of trouble. You're either going to get the objective or you're gonna get some kills. Maybe you're gonna get a little bit of both. A lot of damage and exactly what you need from Benny Q. The tick from the end has what you want. Karmic's finally rotated into the equation. Might be in a little bit of trouble and will get taken down. Finally rotates into a fight and only has an assist to show for it. Now, Yamoja Wall's up on the board, but they're not going to lock anybody down too much. Happen misses the pluck and now is in a bad spot. Pulled back in from Shadow and taken down. And Mushroom Kingdom showing they still have a bite to back up the bark.
Finally, Shadow is able to make an impactful play, and it's off the back of, even though it didn't seem like it did damage, the slow down of the retreat and kind of lock hostile takeover in there allowed for the hostile play of Mushroom Kingdom. Chang'e Best's ultimate was fantastic, and right before the point you were making, I was going to add on and say you're on it, because the thing about Mushroom Kingdom is that early mid portion is nightmare territory, and you called that early in picks and bans, but the later and later you go, especially with the Yamoja, with the Awilish, and soon, by the way, this Ho Yi, hang on.
Good freeze, good damage, good wall, great wall, but you know, it's neat. Gotta believe in the backflip.
Okay.
And yeah,
you know, the third time I'll believe in the backflip. You know what it is? You said it's the cues with Katie. You must see her escape so much with just the backflip that you aren't as terrified as me. I play Neath and I still die, so I just think, oh, she's dead. I'm dead in that situation. I forget I'm not Tegvir.
My Neath also not very good. But like you said,
my Neath no good. Yeah.
it's really the presence, like watching Tegvir specifically in that moment to highlight it for anyone who wants to learn Neath out there. Notice how long he held onto the backflip. Like that is the genuine key. Not using it up front, waiting until the wall comes out from Ymir. Like when you are playing a character that has the most predictable mobility, that has a very predictable landing spot from said mobility, like everything about it is very easily ganked. You can't just use it willy-nilly. You have to kind of think about it, and I think Tegvir shows that off in a good way that highlights a simple ability.
But what's scary about it at the same time is now the beads are down for the Neath, and there's a Gold Fury up on the left-hand side of the map. And we've seen that Shadow has managed to stay relevant enough in this game. So now, if you are Tegvir, like you said, Tegvir is really good about choosing when to use abilities, where to position. You have to be even more diligent of where the Awilish is, and for that matter, where the knockups are, not getting caught, not just the backflip alone. And with Gold Fury up, I wonder if that's going to lead to hostile takeover looking for action elsewhere. Maybe duo.
Well, they are getting aggressive, and that actually looks like a great path to try and cut off a running Ho Yi. You've got Susanoo dealing the damage. Is it enough to follow up? The great wall and a great way to force the disengage. But look, Happen still in a nice area to keep things going. Neat stun comes through, keeping the combat engaged, keeping Ho Yi there, and plucked on back by Rat Milk. Now it is going to cost you one mid. It should cost you one mid laner. Somebody's got to get him. Finally, they put the final damage down and give Benny Q his first death. but they might have had to go too far in order to get it. Shadow, low, and chasing. Happen is there, goes for a great cutoff. Rat Milk with the damage follow-up, and yeah, the walls are down from Yamoja under tower, but it is not enough to save the day. A 3-for-1 trade, and Benny Q will be happy to die for that.
Now, if you're hostile takeover, you can grab a tier 1 tower as well. You hate losing Benny Q. Shutdown gold is just so valuable in Smite 2, but everything else was so clean. I talk about this a lot with Happen in particular. I feel like you've heard this point more than most. Happen on aggressive supports is a match made in heaven. He plays them so well. When he plays more passive supports, sometimes hostile takeover kind of tries to let the game fall to them, but when Happen plays on something more aggressive and can facilitate, and especially when Rat Milk is their jungle, they play completely different, and they're so aggressive, and they move the game so quickly along in pacing. It's one of the reasons I think Benny Q is such a good fit for the team, because we're seeing that in the Newt, right? The Staff of Mirrodin gave Benny double dashes, which was able to create the space that kept Benny alive for so long, and that's now twice. One time Benny did die, sure, but twice that Benny having the ability to stay alive in these fights has prolonged the fight, then give an opportunity for the aggression of hostile takeover to follow behind Happen and make plays off of it. It's just so clean and so good for hostile takeover. I'm not falling for it again. Not only is backflip up, now the beads are up. I will not be baited into this dual lane.
Jump together, like, you know, Tegveer jumping around the corner, and then immediately panned over to Shadow, bouncing right behind him. Like, just the mood, right? You can tell at least Shadow right behind, not affected. I just looked up at the gold count, though, and maybe it should be affected a little bit. That's, what, 8,000 gold, just a little shy at 15 minutes, which is an absolutely insane lead. Oh, and by the way, hey, you know, what could make that a little bit better? Let's say like another Fury on the top and being able to get a second pip on the board for your team. It feels like it'd be pretty good.
Does feel like it would be pretty good. What's nice potentially is it looks like the Queen Naga will be free for Mushroom Kingdom, which, you know, it's funny because usually hostile takeover are very particular with objectives. A lot of times teams value the Queen Naga buff over the Gold Fury because, you know, it's a buff you just grab the one time versus a Gold Fury that's up for the taking whenever. Granted, with a gold lead like we're seeing in the charts and an experience difference, not the end of the world by any stretch of the imagination to not get it. I think the biggest problem is, even though Mushroom Kingdom's fights have looked better than they should, you're still going to be thousands of gold behind per roll, basically. You've got to clean that up. I look at Mario Bro in particular, a name we haven't even mentioned yet, a player I like a lot, because when he's clean, mechanically, there's not many matches. Hang on, some trouble mid.
It looks like
we're good. We're
Tonga
good.
best. Yeah, fine. They're
everything's fine. Man, Tier 2's scary.
There are no fires.
You didn't tell me it was this scary.
You get the okay. So I'm gonna peel the curtain back for some people, which is when you're at least the way aggro had taught Tier 2 is very specifically making sure that you're not in the way of your Tier 1 at any given time, and that it is a very fine line to ride. And when you, depending on where you're at, and when fights like that happen, it can become very, very difficult.
Yeah, the school of aggro was a school of hard knocks, and I'm not going against the teacher there. I don't want to be in that detention room. I'm all good. I gotta hear about the Pittsburgh Pirates. Like, I'd be in hell. I'm fine. I'll pass. Anyway, Pyromancer, right?
Pyromancer!
That's up.
I mean, this should be at least clean start and pretty secure objective. That's twice now that Tempo's thrown out the wall. I admire the gumption. Unfortunately, twice now that it's also not worked. I want to go back to
Speaking of gumption.
Will we have time to? They're going to go for a Fire Giant in a full 5-on-5 scenario. Everyone's over here, save for Mario Bro, who you were talking about. So a 4-on-5, Mushroom Kingdom, down a person. Ramhill, waiting in the grass, looking for something. Good pluck immediately, and you've got one person now out of position and right in the waiting arms of Benny Q. The damage is going to be good, but it's gone the other way too. Happen is actually the first one to get burned down. The pluck ends up going against him. Meanwhile, Mario Bro still split pushing, still getting a Tier 2 and closing some of that gold gap. You thwart a Fire Giant, you get a kill, you get a tower. That is a great segment for Mushroom Kingdom.
fantastic segment from Mushroom Kingdom. Like you said, you hit the big three, but there's so many little things to that go so well too. We're seeing the Chang'e best damage finally coming online. You could see the presence there to answer happen going in for the pluck and overextending, finally getting punished for it. It took a minute to kill him, sure, but I feel like this game we're seeing a lot of times how important it is to get a TKO. You don't get one shot by Rat Milk, which is big, especially considering Rat Milk has the Reaper. You can't give up free kills to Rat Milk. He'll start sustaining significantly and very quickly. It'll get really bad really quick. And for Mario Bro, the thing I was going to talk about that you mentioned with Mario Bro, I think the thing that always has held Mario Bro back from being one of the premier ADCs is his ability to farm. In this instance, being able to get that split push online, he's been really patient in terms of rotating when compared to the other side. It's a good combination, and it could open a lot of doors for this Hou Yi, because Hou Yi in the jungle right now, in late-game teamfights with this aspect, you just start taking damage when the autos bounce off walls. You don't even know where it comes from. Add into that some crit, it's literally playing against a demon, and there's not much you can do to answer it. Neath aspect is one of the better answers, but still, just to kind of mark my words on that. Those late-game fights in small, designated zones throughout the jungle, especially around Fire Giant, like we've already seen, add in the Hou Yi, add in the aspect, things are going to get really dicey for Hostile Takeover.
I think, and very specifically highlighting, again, how important farm can be when you just... Sometimes you just gotta hunker down. Sometimes your team is behind. Sometimes you're losing in pretty much every facet that you could be losing in. You're not gonna win a 5-on-5 fight like that. In fact, you're not gonna be that useful and helpful. Maybe you could get some shots, maybe some damage, but obviously the team as a 4-piece had what they needed. I love the idea to just sit down, like you said, play peaceful, play quiet, play patient, and get that farm online, which is true pretty much in any MOBA. If you're going to be playing, if you're behind, farm is always gonna be number one. And now you've got a little bit more online. That extra gold means that you get more items, that closes up the gap between you and Tegveer if you're Mario Bro. And it sets things up for some success. Now, kills read 9 to 5, 20 minutes in. The gold is still almost 7,000 in favor of Hostile Takeover, so something that you still have to surmount. Levels, though, is still going to be one of the biggest spots. You've got a level lead pretty much everywhere, Tegveer. The look around is what really seals it, if you're really wondering. It's the
Man,
blink.
sometimes Happen is like the most troll player to watch, I swear to God.
Well, now
Anyway,
Pyromancer started
Pyromancer.
up and actually contested this time, and going back and forth, Tegveer gets credit for the Pyro. Now you have to wonder if you've bitten off more than you can chew from Mushroom Kingdom. Tegveer firing like crazy, rapid blast.
Look at that damage.
Good wall to separate some distance, but oh my god, Karmic and Rat Milk just combined to be too much. A double kill for the solo
Neath
laner
ult.
as he rotates in. One Neath ult, at least locking down a little bit. Does the DOT have enough? Doesn't seem like it's going to be quite enough, but that's two that are virtually knocked out of this. That is one of the most open Fire Giant pits I have ever seen, and it's begging for Hostile Takeover.
Yeah, this is kind of as free can get if you are the side of Hostile Takeover. They fought that so well. Everything was called so cleanly. And you notice the thing that's been so problematic in the last fight in particular, where Happen got picked really early, trying to set things up, was a non-issue because Karmic was able to kind of stand and throw. We haven't talked about the Yorm much because it's Yorm in solo. It's just a worm. It just kind of stands there. It was a tough matchup into Achilles, but Karmic already got through it. Now you kind of just get to do the Yorm things, and if you can stand up and just be that scarecrow, I guess, it sets up for the rest of the team to be able to operate more freely. The fact that Happen wasted the blink in mid, and yet somehow still, Mushroom Kingdom got so thrown off and off kilter by the engagement of Hostile Takeover is a rough sign, to say the least. And I like the calls that Mushroom Kingdom was making. You had Mario Bro come out of base initially and go straight to the team. You had the group up once the Deathbringer was online and once you're starting to finish some items. But Hostile Takeover just did it better. Mushroom Kingdom will get some gold on the splits, but against Fire with 5, it's a matter of time before you have to group and begin the base defense. And Hostile Takeover, they're going to be really difficult to fight into in this next engagement. They're just so ahead. You have the Fire Giant buff online too. Happen's going to have the blink back you'll have to play around. It's not going to be easy. I think the best thing for Mushroom Kingdom is they're going to have to rely on the Emoji damage and hope that Mario Bro can show up big.
Yeah, the biggest thing right there Karmic does that I absolutely love, keeping the team engaged. There are 3 on right, keeps 3 there as long as you possibly can. Now, admittedly, Karmic is the only one not in the fray, but that opened up the easiest tier 2 I think I've ever seen for Hostile Takeover on left. Did not quite buy enough time to get the Phoenix, though, so the team rotates in towards mid. And you've got, again, a 5... kind of on 5 on 3 plus 2 lingering, waiting. Benny Q walking up on the side. Karmic as well, looking to loop around. No good spot to defend a tier 2. Instead, making and mounting a defense under the Phoenix line, which could feel pretty good. Look, if we're talking about a good defense, add Yomoja into the fray. Yes, you're technically a level down, but you had mentioned it, like good damage numbers, good presence on the board, good abilities. It feels like something that could really open up a lot, maybe even lock down something like Karmic, who is under the Phoenix, taking a lot of damage, disarmed, but able to stay alive, at least long enough for his team to rotate in and cause a mix-up for the fight. Low health bars for Shadow and Tempo. Forces a little bit of a fall back and a small reset overall for Mushroom Kingdom.
Really tough to play into this right now. Remember, 50% extra damage to structures is going so well for Hostile Takeover. Mushroom Kingdom got to try to stay alive and weather the storm, but it looks like they're going to lose their mid-Phoenix.
Yeah, timer plucked back. That should be an open kill, but a great stun at least opens an escape for the Achilles. Like you said, though, it doesn't save the Phoenix, and right Phoenix has just been getting burned the entire time as well. So that's a 2-for-1 combo. Now you back up. Fire Giant, a little under a minute left on the buff. So a little over a minute, I guess, in that case. That is going to have the respawn for it. So instead of trying to get too aggressive, instead of trying to hostily take over the Titan room, Hostile Takeover will back up, reset. This is a good time to spend all the gold you just got from, what was it, 3 tier 2s? And again, come back to this with a very fresh form of vengeance.
One thing that's been tough for Mushroom Kingdom, I was watching in the last fight in particular, Karmic survives so much right now, except from Chang'e Best. Only one true magic defense item, otherwise we're going towards health, a nice mix. The Helm of Radiance in particular is just physical protection to the max. You add it with a Soul Reaver, you've got a bit of damage online. It's just not... It's one of those things where, especially with Chang'e Best build, having gone the Totem and the Obsidian Shard combination that we also saw from the side of Benny Q, you should be able to blow up that Yorm when he's stepping up. But we saw the CC, we saw Karma get stuck by the Phoenix, and nothing really came of it. And that's the kind of pick you have to get. Once you get the Yorm, you can kind of break through, and then Benny's not in the backline free casting Skyfalls to his heart's content. It kind of slows everything down. But for Hostile Takeover, that was so good, Gore. They played the map so well off that fire. If you go through and clear every tower and get 2 Phoenixes, and you still have 60 seconds on Fire Giant, you did something right. Because what that added to them as well, you were able to back, fully reset, finish items, set up your ward vision and coverage as well for the next Fire Giant. And you want to talk about a difficult contest. This is going to be a nightmare for Mushroom Kingdom. Thankfully, they kept their left Phoenix, but no mid, no right Phoenix. They have to be present of that. If they lose the fight, the game's over, because Hostile Takeover can just rush on through to the throne room. And Hostile Takeover can take their sweet time on fire because they dare Mushroom Kingdom to step up.
Well, last time they did something like this, admittedly,
Karmic's 1v9, by the way.
maybe it was 2 times ago it was happened. But yeah, Karmic does not seem to care about the presence of anybody. Just takes out Shadow. I mean, has just been in the backline, opening space for his team, no problem. And now you've got the chase down. Damage is good. Presence is good. Rat Milk kills off Tempo. That's 2 that are gone. Make it 3 with timer. The other 2 are back in the base. And the Fire Giant around the belts of 5 on Hostile Takeover. 2 open Phoenixes and 2 people left defending, and you run to the Titan room to try and get things over as fast as you can. You've got the presence. Mario Bro maybe trying to make a crazy birthday play to see if something can happen to prolong this game. You're in a 2v5. You need the damage now. You're 0-3. You've got to step up, but they're bullying you in your fountain. This is what the lead earns you, and this is what the lead gets you. Hostile Takeover walking in. Low health bars, though, starting to cause a little bit of trouble, but the Titan gets a little lower. They're finally making it. Oh, my God. You've got to focus it. You're stepping up. Oh, my God. Just one shy of getting it done, and they save the Titan just for a little longer. But you gotta hold up now.
No, they don't. Oh my god!
Oh no! Even with the deicide. Oh my god! Well, happy birthday!
Well, I get a hostile takeover said, bro, Mario, bro, we've got a birthday gift for you. You can have the Quadro. We'll take the game as minion number 832 strikes the arrow through the Titan to get the win. Oh my god, that was almost Game of Thrones. I mean, look, it would have been hard to win off of that had it been had the Titan survived anyway. That was ridiculous. The fact that that game ends in that manner. Otherwise, just a clinic from Hostile Takeover. Just a troll end, man, and a half. Like,
yeah.
Like,
that's game one.
I gotta go back to Mario Bros. Stream. I gotta see that reaction later. That is a must-watch for me. But, at least he gets to have some free time on his birthday.
I'm going to be honest with you. There's going to be a lot of replays there's probably a lot to talk about that happened to that game. I can't. That last 10, 15 seconds is going to be the only thing that plays in my mind. I mean, like you said, I guess, hold on. I'll try to do my due diligence. I'll take a deep breath. Recenter. They did real good all game. Hostile Takeover, I mean, Gold Furies, any neutral objectives, team fights, kills, experience, all sorts of farm. It really does feel like they set themselves up for victory. I mean, 5 minutes in, we were talking about a pretty massive lead already, especially for that time. And it feels like they just did not really slow down from then.
They did not. They played around everything so well. They took advantage of the Susano early to help get the Newt kind of skyrocketing through damage. The Neath was able to just free farm out, and Tegvir had so much online so early. And you notice the Transcendence, the Titan's Bane, the Avenging Blade that Tegvir had, and you might wonder, well, he was still autoing so fast. No way, it's just the Odysseus. That's the purpose of going that Neath aspect. You're hitting so hard, but you're hitting like you built just full auto attacks, kind of like what Mario Bros was having to do, in a sense, with the Dagger Frenzy into the Masashis. This is the end. This is the most ridiculous thing. I mean, honestly, if I'm Mushroom Kingdom, I'm past the point of caring how this game ends. I'm just pissed that one lone archer who had 6 health is how we lose, and Mario Bros doesn't get the penta. Both things are asinine that they work out the way they work out.
From 0-3 to 4-4, a Mario Bros story. I mean, that was, like, for all things, the way that game ends is maybe the best it could have gone for you to then be able to say, like, couldn't have been me. I'm out of the defense, guys. I don't know what's happening.
I'm him. What can I say, gang?
I just absolutely look. There's the competitive portion of this game and what is going on, and admittedly, that is. So I'm sure 10 players in that lobby. That is the thing that is important. But for my seat, the entertainment value of the last minute is
good,
top tier, and I'm nervous about the rest of the day because that was insane. Yeah. What are we in store for? It's either going to continue to go up.
The bar is up here.
It was
oh my
man,
God.
There's a lot to probably break down in there that I've completely forgotten because that last minute was so wild. So instead, I'm going to give myself, and I think Malum, a little mental reset. We're going to go to a break, and then we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, here to the June circuit for Smite Prime. Again, my name is Gormizer, and we just had one of the wildest. If I think too much about it, I might start laughing and lose the train again. So instead, I've got to focus on the fact that all I say is there was a game one. A game one happened, and that it played. And it was awesome, and it set a high bar for the rest of the day. Of course, I'm not doing it alone. I got Malum with me, and of course, we've got more games to go as we take a look at the bracket and see where we are, where we were, where we will soon be. We just watched Hostile Takeover versus Mushroom Kingdom. Hostile Takeover won that one and is going to be taking on Dirty Water now in this next round. And you've got a couple of other familiar names, but where we're moving is the better way to say that, is up to the very top, the round 2 match 1, single bind, and Chingle Blorgen taking each other on. That one's going to be an interesting one to say in the middle of a team fight. We'll have to figure that out, whether or not my mouth will do it on time. But Malum, already high bar for the day. This seems like it could be an interesting matchup as well.
The big red noses are squeaking on this day at the circus score. Like, honk, honk, I'm one of them.
And they're all mine.
I'll try to get the clown makeup on by the grand finals, and by the time we're done, get in the car, Chingle Blurgen. We got a clown car to fit everybody in. I don't know what the first game end was about, but it can only go up from here in terms of, not making me want to explode, but the game has to... The games have to live up now to the craziness also, because you can't go back down in energy. We gotta keep it up, If we're gonna give away quadras to the birthday boys in the fountain, I want to see that.
Well, picks and bans will get us into this next game, and will get me into the point I want to use to follow up yours, which is there's only one solution. We need a pentakill. We need to. That's the only. If we get one penta, then I feel like we've then balanced things out, and the world can go back to normal instead of, like you said, living in a red and white tent. Single bind will be first pick over on the left-hand side. Chingle Blorgen will be taking up the second. Newt first banned after seeing what Binky was able to do on that pick. Not too terribly surprised to see Newt get returned to the ban column. But I guess back worth mentioning, hold on, I got to bring up the little notes I had of like, hey, here's all the things, because it was, there was a whole lot that was going on. We've got Horus available, right? Admittedly, there's also worth mentioning while I have the time, and since I looked at the notes and saw it, Summer Bash tomorrow, 9 a.m. start for the EU Joust. Make sure that you're tuning in right here. But about now 4 hours prior to whatever the current time is for you. And of course, playing on OB36. So those are the things I think that are important to match up at the very beginning of this. And then worth mentioning that after the Newt, it was Thor, Bracken, and Agni, of all people, that are getting banned out. We've got Opwash joining the mix down there in the ban column. But if I'm doing my math correctly, that means there's still a whole lot of gods that are real good for first pick available as of right now. I guess the question is whether or not we'll get to see the Horus. If they think the Horus is a threat, single bind, I don't know what kind of Horus they might have in their pocket. And I don't know what Chingle Blorgen is thinking about when it comes down to their draft style. So anything, whether this ban gets locked in by the time I ask you the question or not, anything you want to see and or hope to have locked in? Aphrodite.
Well, I like taking away the Agni, because Agni has... I keep talking about this word flex, and I feel like it's a word that did lose some meaning over time, but I feel like it's really regained it. There's so much flex potential and meaningful flex potential right now, and Agni is a great example. You can play him in mid, blow people up. You can rock the Aspect in ADC. I've seen the Aspect do pretty good in solo, too, as well. The Horus lock in first overall, not too surprising. I don't expect to see Aspect Horus. I would imagine this is just... straight and narrow, traditional Horus that we know and love with the fast ultimate. And in terms of lanes, flex. You can take it solo. It's really good there right now. I wouldn't expect to see it jungle necessarily at this level of play. It's not impossible. It's just improbable. And in support, it's just really good. It's Horus, right? The answer back, though, Jingwei and Mordred. You talked about kind of how many characters are available. Jingwei has not really been touched by any balance recently, and she's been, in a lot of eyes, one of the best ADCs. Her laning phase doesn't feel the greatest, but once you get online and you have your crit, you have your Hydra's Lament, you're hitting so unbelievably hard that you don't really care what you're into. The Mordred alongside it, let's talk about flex, baby! Mordred jungle, Mordred solo, both can work. Sunprod is the main Mordred jungle that I think of, but Mordred in solo is still just as strong and nasty. He brings so much to the laning phase. His ultimate also just provides, and we saw this kind of with the Yorm, right? You have to be ever present of where the solo laner is, what their goal is in every fight. And as a team against a Mordred, you almost have to play around waiting to see what the Mordred's going to do with an ultimate. Now, if it is Mordred solo and to Yorm solo, I hope you brought your blankets, because we're taking a nap over there. There's not a lot that's going to go down in the soul. And if I'm Solstice, I forget I have those buttons on my keyboard for a little bit, potentially. It's always possible there's something there, but just not usually the matchup we see. Then Nadaji and the Discordia. Daji's so good right now, Gore. She's so good. I was going to talk about her next. I'm kind of surprised she made it this far in, but to grab her this late in and with Disco, forget it. And then Morgan Le Fay. All the good characters. You said it. There's so many good characters, and they're all getting locked in.
I mean, that's the thing that this is always going to be true. Whenever whenever any sort of balance comes through, it shakes up what is meta. But if it doesn't shake up some of the good picks too, then it turns out those picks are just gonna stick around. Like you said, Medusa going into the Jingwei, something I'm very excited to see, something that kind of got skipped over because there was a lot of other stuff going on. Like you said, depending on the Mordred Yorm matchup could be kinda snooze fest over in the solo lane.
Yeah, a little bit.
And it would make me assume that, you know, if it is, and right now at least it's seeming like it, the Daji helping the Mordred, probably not going to be something that really comes through. It'll be Daji chasing down a Medusa or chasing down insert TBD picks right here for single bind. Discordia, though, locked in. I feel like, I mean, if I'm going to be honest, Discordia is one of my favorite mages to play. I think she's just very fun.
She's so good
I think that the chaos and, like you said, very good. Like being able to kind of have a good team fight ultimate, have good farm, have good enough survivability, right? It's not necessarily the best in the game, but like it's enough to keep you alive most of the time. And as of right now, you've got the Daji on your side. Tsukiyomi does cause some trouble for people, but I feel like this does open up at least the mid lane to be successful. The Mir locked in, I think that it is, like you said, the Mordred probably going over to solo, so I'll just ignore them for now and go back to what you were talking about, the Morgan Le Fay and the Tsukiyomi. How do you feel about them?
I love the Morgan Le Fay right now. It doesn't seem like we're going to get the aspect Morgan Le Fay that's so good, but that's fine because I feel like, if anything, people have been kind of undervaluing the traditional Morgan Le Fay in favor of the aspect, being able to take it into different roles. I just want to see her blow people up because people forget how good she is at that. I mean, plain and simple. Combined with the Tsukiyomi, too, I really like the Tsukiyomi into the Daji. It's really tough to fight into a Daji at the moment. She just brings so much. Her ultimate is so out of this world. So you need a character that can kind of play into a 1v1, that you can play a little bit off kilter. And I think Tsukiyomi can bring that for you. You have to play around Daji's ultimate because she literally just says, hang on. She takes a phone call up in the air, but maybe there's a world that's your answer.
Well, we'll see. Is that the answer? Is that what's going to shake down? The only way to find out is to jump into game here. Single bind and Chingle Blorgan. Single bind, left side of the screen. And of course, if I am playing from the bottle top. Yeah, that's going to be if they end up winning this, I'm trying to figure out how I want to like emphasize their name for the hype, but that's a problem for future me right now.
Ooh, you can mix it up. You can kind of hit a little this, a little that. Chingle Blorgan.
just put the emphasis on every other syllable depending on which one happens. Instead, I'd want to talk about, and I feel bad. Sorry, Chingle Blorgan. We talked about your name and not your comp.
Oh yeah,
outside
true.
of picks and bans. But I do want to mention the Horus, not just being Horus, but being a roar on Horus has a distinct vibe
Chills
to it that usually spells doom for people who have to deal with it.
Yeah, and Donut Thug on Medusa as well, because Aurora, I feel like we've talked about this a little bit, kind of all of us through Smite Prime, of we've almost forget just how good Aurora is and how long he's been around. There's a lot of players from Smite 1 and the professional scene that just kind of, oh, this guy's playing this weekend. Oh, like, for example, Benko. Benko's streaming Smite 1. He's playing solo. Let's go. Paul retired. There's all the feels around. Aurora's just been around and been nasty this whole time, playing in different community leagues as well, not just Smite Prime. But like you said, you get the Horus around it. You're with Donut Doug, who has one of the grossest Medusas you will ever see, into Vayu on this Jingwei, which, like I mentioned, Jingwei is not somebody who feels amazing very early, especially for Vayu, who, whenever I've watched Vayu, I feel like Vayu comes online late, like almost no other hunter. Funny enough, I would almost compare it to Mario Bro in some ways, where once there's farm online and we're in team fights, Vayu can be compared to almost anybody. But in this laning phase through mid game, that's where I really expect to see Donut Thug go nuts. Ramakami just got so low.
Yeah, makes you wonder I thought it was going to be a snooze fest over there. Maybe, well, realistically, let's be
too.
honest with ourselves. Until the ults are online, there's actually kill potential in solo. That maybe should have been mentioned a little earlier. Now you've got damage being dropped. Layers is low, and Layers is gone bacon with the first blood for Chingle Blorgan NMR. Of course, showing what the dodge you can do early on.
Moswall will look to continue a little something with it, but can't quite go all the way through. That is, again, that's the perfect kind of first blood you want. I feel like right now getting first blood to your mid laner can be so valuable because everything is going through mid at the end of the day, right? It's you're on a treadmill, farm is walking towards you. If you get kills on top of that and start really spiraling out of control, especially in a character like Morgan Le Fay, who just feels unstoppable when she can get ahead, that's where you want to be. And for Moswall in particular, I feel like Moswall has caught some flack on Smite Prime in particular for god selections at times. I think a lot about the Nuwa. I think it's kind of a big one. But the Morgan Le Fay in this is just going to feel so good. And I love how it's going to set up with Layers as well. Not a combo you'd think of, and there's not really a traditional, Thor wall into Ho Yi bounce kind of thing, right? It's more just the amount of pure damage over a prolonged period of time and how nasty the fight gets. Hang on. Turns it around. Okay. Go Remikami. Good for you.
If you're gonna cause trouble for a Yorm, that might have actually been one of the last opportunities to do so. Now though, wall up, Privative, and a little bit of trouble. A Roar playing aggressive, has Donut dug, but that shell! The shell just enough to make sure that Privative can stay alive. The healing. There's a lot about this Horus that's really easy to talk about, and the lane factor is such a big deal, right? Healing, once the ults come online, that's surely going to be a factor, that crazy rotation potential. I mean, there's just so much that it brings to the table. Yes, I'm a Ymir truther. I love Ymir more than anything. I think this is going to be a really hard game to keep up with because Horus is just going to be present. But now, you've got 3 people over here. You've got Donut Doug in a little bit of trouble, surrounded by those 3. Slowed down thanks to the Ymir, and one more shot from Vayu gets the kill just before the level 5.
And now makes him level 5 on top of that for when you get back to lane. So have fun with that one when you get there. Plus, you can go right after and invade a purple. But the last couple minutes got so chaotic. We saw the fight in solo with Remikami being able to survive the gank. Then we were watching the fight in duo. We saw how close things got there, eventually leading to the kill. During all that, by the way, there was just a pure slugfest that led into the rotation that we saw come out. That involved the MLF ult, the Discordia almost went down. So fighting across the map, ping, oh, Donut Dog! Like I said, they were waiting.
Won't happen again.
Low but alive. That's the big deal for Donut Doug. And needing the farm, right? Now you've got a Jingwei that's level 6 on the other side. You still haven't hit 5.
So
but
dead,
your team's getting aggressive
right?
anyway. You've got the lockdown. You've got the chase in MR. Letters taken down. Moswall now up into the sky. And you've got the chase down, the lockdown, maybe? It's a Jingwei, that's hard to come up to. Instead, turning on to Privative, looking for the kill, helping Donut Doug get into the fray, into the mix, and picking up a couple for your squad.
And the ult caught Vayu, too, which slowed down the Jing from being able to get too involved and leaves a lot of poke gone. Wait.
Oh my god!
Oh my god. Well, it was cool to be Vayu for a minute there. You had a kill. You had advantage. You were able to. Your team was invading the other ADC's purple, and now that sucks. That was so tough. Like I said, people kind of sleep on how good just normal MLF can be at times because we value the flexibility of her kit, the uniqueness to play it, the different roles that she can thrive in, and you just forget sometimes it's great to just lock her in mid, buy a Chronos pendant, and have the time of your life.
Yeah, now you're at this point where, well, the good news is Jingwei gets back to lane pretty fast. First off, I got a note on that. So you've got at least the farm still going for you. And it's still going in your favor. It's actually interesting, and maybe this is just because the last game was, for lack of a kinder way to put it, very one-sided early on.
It was a clown fiesta.
About 3,000 gold. Yeah,
I'm playing Share 2 today. I can use the harsher words for us. This is kind of cool. Clown fiesta.
This is 700 gold separating them, and it's only slightly in favor of single bind. This puts a lot more pressure on some of those neutral objectives, on these rotations, and really on NMR. I'm actually keeping my eyes on this Daji like crazy, because like we know what a Tsukiyomi can do, but we know how highly valued Daji has been in the past, and because of that, I'm maybe putting more weight onto NMR to perform, to have a presence, you know, blink ults, blink damage, all of that stuff. Admittedly, right now, outside of ults, I'm not expecting too much, but as the game progresses, you don't ever want to 1v1 a Daji. Like, it's one of the most dangerous things you could possibly do. And so I'm going to watch NMR for who they catch out.
I like that you bring up NMR too, because NMR is another player. I know we both watched a lot of him in Smite 2, but even his playstyle, when he was kind of learning things and feeling them out in the jungle, they can thrive around NMR playing his own pace of game, even if that means you don't see him for a little while and it seems like he's lagging behind. As long as he's up in level, he can be dangerous.
Well, there's going to be some damage dropped on the Privative. Now up onto the pillar. It's going to be NMR, but it's not going to do too much overall. Instead, it's going to be a disengage. Privative still goes down. Low health bars on the side of single bind, but nothing to lock in. Instead, it's tick damage that seems to be thrown the way of Jingle That is causing a little bit more trouble. Bacon with a low health bar. Again, Vayu, who had a low health bar. Pretty much everybody had to back off. And it's a kill knocked on for the blue team, making that gold lead a little bit closer to 1,500. And maybe a little bit more because they're looking like they want a Gold Fury.
What were you saying about Aurora's Horus? Just how gross it was, that to the skies, the kind of presence. Yeah, that set up a lot. Hang on, there's a chance for a steal! They let it go!
They step in, and like you said, Privative. Oh my god, Privative! Look, man.
Well, we were talking about clown fiestas. Maybe we're back in one. That is such a good play from Chinglborg. And Privative, that play alone keeps all the pacing back in control, Gore. That's what I was getting worried about. And I was kind of trying to hint at with the NMR thing. It's so easy for Chinglborg to let single bind and how they play the map get ahead of them and kind of get in their heads almost. But keeping the game this even to this point, is a huge sign for me. Because what do we tend to see with teams that are, maybe they're comprised of more community and amateur competitive players and some ranked grinders, but we know they're incredibly talented. What separates them, and back in the day, this was what separates SCC from SPL, right? It was always how to play the map and being able to farm effectively and not lose sight of the big picture in terms of farm. The play around solo, spit on, is there enough for a kill? Not going to be quite there. The Eye of Erebus not online for the Orm, instead choosing the Runeforge, maybe the difference there. It's so good for Chinglborg, and it just keeps you in the game in a way that you wouldn't have been otherwise.
Well, presence. And get in mid one more time. The damage is set up, but it's going to be some disengaging. Mostly from single bind as they eat the ult from NMR. Bacon as well. Through theirs out. Now wall up from Privative. Privative is just getting bullied at this point, is the way I would describe this. Because why is everyone, even Rimikami, rotating in just to take down the Ymir? And you'll never guess it, but they do. 0-3 now for the support on Chinglborg, and it is just the presence of single bind and the rotations from single bind that are slowly choking out the squad on the Chaos side. In fact, not even slowly. I mean, just playing aggressively as they are. Good damage onto NMR and the backline as well from Moswall. Gives a small reset to everything. No towers just yet have fallen. So the Gold Fury, and specifically the Gold Fury Steel, probably being one of the biggest things. The farm has slowly ebbed back in favor of single bind, but slowly is maybe the biggest term. This is, for all intents and purposes, a very even game.
We're hovering Donut Doug, so let's talk ADCs for a second, because we have a difference in build. And Donut Doug, hey, earlier we were talking about aggro, let's talk about Bobby now, because Donut Doug running the Bobby build that I believe Donut Doug cooked up with Inbound. So going the Learn Bow versus the Devo gloves, on this back it should be the Avenging Blade. What I'm really excited is when Donut Doug does back, assuming it is the Avenging Blade, I want to see instant rotations out, because you want to fight in the jungle anyway. And there it is, the Avenging Blade. You're a little more tanky because you have 200 health on it. Next up, you're going to see that slow build, and I believe Titans comes next. It gets you rolling a little bit faster, it feels like, than the build Vayu's going, which is the one we've kind of seen in the past. Because once you have the Learn Bow, you got the attack speed rolling. The Avenging Blade makes it feel so good to fight in lane, and like I said, now rotating around, fighting in the jungle, that gets a little bit extra nasty too. Gives you kind of more pen than you usually would feel like you have at this point in the game. Great pickup, and it's a great build. And as much as I say this jokingly, of course, you know, we try to avoid giving Bobby praise. That build has been doing work in ADC. It goes to his head.
It does, you know what? And you're right to be very wary about what the positives you say. But like you said, when it works, it works. And right now, it seems to be working pretty well. I mean, even just looking at the tower damage, looking at the position, looking at the fact that the first tower is going to be that left tier 1 taken by Medusa. Ooh. Although Donut Doug took a lot in the process, the ult doesn't lock down, but a good little juke at least keeps Vayu guessing. But look at, I mean, there are dogs in the woods. They are sniffing him out. Donut Doug is just not going to get away with this one. Yeah, Vayu, a couple of shots, and now a couple of kills on board. Opens up the conversation for a Gold Fury. Layers is going to be over here. Spots it out, has the team rotating in, but again, you don't have your carry. Doug dead for 15 more seconds. Gold Fury leashed and picked up immediately by Layers. It's under half. That's going to get dropped because Moswell's in a little bit of trouble. NMR getting aggressive onto the right side. Does have the pal out. Goes up into the sky. Causes a little bit of trouble. Mordred, like you said, rotating in. Now you got a 5-on-4. Still waiting for Doug to be able to run back, and does able to run back, but just too late to save Layers. Not there to help with any sort of damage. So you've lost your jungler, but you're getting a lot more on the back end. Damage seems to be good, but you've lost Ramikami. You're about to lose a Roar. This is a great fight for Chingo Blorgan, who started up this Gold Fury one more time. You might lose your Mordred in the process, and you do. But can Moswell, can Doug step up to do any more? It seemed like a surefire Gold Fury, but instead dropped by Chingo Blorgan. Just the one death enough to make him reset.
They needed Mink to be able to play that sort of defensive linebacker role and kind of keep single bind away. Obviously, the Heart Slash helps you stay alive, but couldn't do enough to keep Mink alive there. So once you lose that, everybody was a little bit hurting on Chingo Blorgan. You don't want to then pick the Gold Fury back up, especially in front of Donut Doug, who had just respawned, was full everything, ready for war, not to mention Moswell was there. So I like not taking the risk, but the fight for Chingo Blorgan was so good. And it's crazy because the tools that they had weren't necessarily a good enough answer. The whole time, there were so many ults online for single bind, I didn't think it was going to be even a consideration or that close. Like, I look at the Tsukuyomi, who had Piercing Moonlight for a lot of that fight, and it just seems like it shouldn't have been a question of how many kills or, if any, Laris would have gotten. I feel like a lot of it comes from the Mordred rotation! Oh, Oswald's dead.
I mean, just blink and you miss it. The health bar, 100 to 0 in an instant. A Roar in a similar spot. Barely able to get out. And now with the Mordred chasing, Layers is pretty much going to be the sacrificial lamb this time. A Roar stays alive long enough, but it is being one after another. And it looks like maybe after another there for a second. Ramikami seemingly low. Doug rotates in, but that tier 1 is just forfeit. Now, hey, you know what? I've been talking about this Gold Fury a lot. Maybe this is the time. Maybe this is the chance they can actually start it.
I like this one. You're much cleaner set up for it. There could still be some contests. Aurora doesn't have ult. Donut Doug does, but I don't think you can close that gap in time anyway. Should be free. Yeah, we're good. Whew. Got a little scared there just for a second because the gap was getting closed.
Seems like it might still be a close after fight. As of now, Doug not able to get a stun on the ult. The slow, good for Privative, but that's a walk away from Chingo Blorgan. Should be tier 1 for tier 1, so at least alleviating some of that gold pressure, although you need somebody to deal a little more damage to it, and it looks like with the minions, they do have enough presence. Doug's gone back over towards left, and Ramikami knocking down a tier 1 on right means at least map objective control, I should say team map objective control, goes the way of single bind, but that Gold Fury does cause a little bit of hurt. 16 minutes in, still about as even as you can get. Pyromancer started up. It seems like with Ramikami rotating in towards the fight, it will be a stick for single bind. They hold on to it just a little bit longer right now. It's getting low. You got NMR and several from Chingo Blorgan lurking around in the jungle. causing a little bit of trouble. Pyromancer dropped, but not leashed completely because Shingleblower can pick it up. Ult coming down from Privative, and a secure for the Pyromancer. Now the chase is up, but what a wall! Oh my god, catching the dash on a roar! That's insane from Privative to just call that one and stop it in its tracks.
Privative steals the objective away, again, by the way, against a roar. That's his whole shtick, and then walls his dash. Bloodsteel and his whole flow. What a play from Privative. Shingleblower just played that Pyro so well. They used the presence of their tools, not just their tools. They had the Apple of Discord. They had the Ymir ult online. Queen Naga will go to single bind in the meantime, which of course still gigantic to be able to get. But they played around knowing they had these things and knowing that single bind knew they had these things. Instead of just throwing out the Apple willy-nilly, waiting for the right opportunity to be able to step up as Disco. Privative, same situation, knowing that Ultimate is so good at securing objectives, knowing that he's been able to kind of step up in the face of single bind without too much punishment due to the lack of just traditional CC. I mean, Aurora obviously has a significant amount to put on the Ymir, but if the Ymir can survive that initial bit of CC from Aurora, he can kind of just stand there unpunished. So Privative just played that to perfection, and the wall was kind of style points, honestly. It stops any follow-up, any response. Now you're stepping away from single bind too if you're Shingleblower. I feel like single bind can't get a comfortable footing in this game. And we talked about it earlier, teams like single bind, when they have the experience they do into Shingleblower, that's the thing they want. They want to establish that almost just dominating presence or aura around it. You just want to be able to have parts of the jungle and parts of the map by standing there menacingly. Shingleblower's not playing that game today. They've got the farm advantage and all. Single bind might be pulling fire. This is risky even as a bait.
I mean, they're burning it a lot faster than I would have given them credit for. Freeze immediately onto a roar. Roar just burned down. That health bar is gone, and Bacon gets credit for the kill. That fire giant ends up proving some demise for the support. But now, what can you get away with? Where's the follow-up?
It's
on the layers. It's on to Doug. It's on to them. Yes, you lose Bacon, but you've lost 3 on the other side. Single bind trying to stay alive. Doug might barely get out of this, but the chase is on. The slow is there. And oh my god, the turnaround under the tower. A little bit of an assist from a 6th man in the map, but wow, what a kill and what a way to stay alive if you're Doug.
You definitely take that one, especially against Mink, who's just been scary for the last 10 minutes or more. Ramakami also was able to survive, so some pluses to take away for single bind. Not to mention, Shingleblower, they got them off fire, but they don't do fire giant. So, I mean, it could have been worse. Still not the cleanest from single bind. The scariest thing to me, and I'm glad in a sense that fire didn't happen, that bomb in pocket for Privative, who's already this game just been so disgusting, getting objective secures and steals. I would worry pulling it around Privative at the moment. You do have an answer in Ramakami's bomb in pocket, of course, but we already have seen Ramakami is going to play up and forward and kind of try to play that separating factor to keep Shingleblower from getting into the objective zones. So that leaves the door open for Privative to kind of go unanswered with it. But let's talk about, I guess, the end of that fight there. Donut Doug getting that kill gives Doug the ability to kind of move around the map more freely, get some farm up. You can back, depending if Doug has TP up as well. Get right back to the fight. You're all set up for the next fight, and you didn't have to burn too much. Notice all those relic cooldowns for the side of single bind. Not that long to go, but here we go.
These Ymir walls have just been insane. Moswell unable to do anything about that one, locked away. Aurora in trouble, trying to find a dash over the wall, and does get it, but they get a Ymir wall that stops them from creating too much space between them. That might actually end up coming back to bite them. Fire Giant, Pyromancer, both over up on the side of the map. And it looks like with Ramakami falling back, Pyromancer will be a pretty quick, easy pickup. And I think, why not? I agree, Shingleblower. Walk into the Fire Giant. See what the response is from single bind. And if there's anything that can be dropped from this. Reset and set up. Donut Doug. All around. Roar has ult layers as well. And Moswell just respawn. Trying to get here as fast as they can. Donut Doug has the damage. It's going to be an aggression from Chingle Blorgan, going in, looking for the burn down, find it on the layers, and get rid of him instantly. And you don't take that much in the process. Vayu has to go back to base, but guess what Vayu can do as a Jingwei come right back in, and it doesn't seem like the stop is going to be there. Instead, they turn the damage onto Rimikami. You've got some low health bars, a lot of low health bars across the board, but it is one after another, a full-on deicide. Somehow, everyone on Chingle Blorgan stays alive, and now they're going to go for the Fire Giant.
The deicide and gore Mink Stinkus is how the ultimate finds 3, sets up Chingle Blorgan to finish the job after a fight that was crafted so well, being able to play it so slow and smart. Make your health bar feel like it had 1,000 more HP just from how prolonged everything had got. Look at how many ults are up for Single Bind 2. They didn't even get to play their own version of the game. And again, Chingle Blorgan just kind of play behind Mink Stinkus, being able to do whatever he wants. Primitive's walls continue to be a work of art. I mean, the art on the walls is almost as good as the walls themselves. You add into all of that the amount of pure, unadulterated damage coming out from Mink Stinkus, who, by the way, is going to get that Discordia passive to only do more. You couple it with the Sanguine Lash, the Blood Carver. There's so much that Mink Stinkus is doing to set up for Chingle Blorgan. And the best part about it is, Gore, this is a band where the lead singer isn't the only reason you're buying tickets. Everyone's playing their part so well this game. And as a unit, they look so cohesive. If I'm Single Bind, a 5v5 is not doing it. You got to find some other way to kind of separate this fight out. It's almost kind of possible to kill Mink Stinkus first, and you might have to do just that.
I like the call from Single Bind, playing a Wrecking Crew and using the Horus ult to get into the Phoenix as soon as they possibly can. But unfortunately for them, Chingle Blorgan was a little bit too quick on the reply, and were able to back in time to stop the push. It doesn't seem like they're going to catch anybody out, although it's not going to stop them from trying. NMR goes in, drops some chains, but only has so much to really show for it.
Big ult down.
And that is a huge ult down, and admittedly, a tier 2 that gets knocked down by Single Bind that doesn't get knocked down by Chingle Blorgan. They still have 2 minutes left on this Fire Giant, so plenty of time to try and get aggressive onto some of the more neutral objectives, or, well, Single Bind's objectives, we'll call them, as they get aggressive in mid. But honestly, a really solid play from the Order team. I mean, just using that Aurora ult, knowing that presence, that's the kind of thing I was excited to see with Horus being available.
I wouldn't be surprised if they run it back either, because that's one thing I feel like Aurora used to do with Horus back in the day a lot too, is if they show a play, they're not afraid to run the play again because, you know, it sounds a little silly almost, but who runs plays in Smite? You know, there's not a lot of true whiteboard X's and O's, I go here, you sprint left off the fast break. There's not a lot of that in Smite. Aurora on Horus is the exact kind of person and player who can set that up. It might not be the same exact situation where you see it into the Phoenix like we saw before, but I could see a world where you almost use it like a pseudo Apollo ultimate. Maybe look to put pressure across the map, make Chingle Blorgan play uneasy, then use that Horus ultimate to reposition yourselves as needed. It could also be a way to, if we see another big Fire Giant dance, right? We saw already that if Chingle Blorgan get in a Fire Giant standoff, they just send Mink Stinkus around with the ultimate, and Single Bind kind of don't know what to do against it. Maybe on the next one, you Horus ult and bring the fight to them, make Mink Stinkus have to play defensive. Wardred ult feels a lot worse when you're trying to use it kind of defensively to get to your own backline. There's a lot of different ways they can make use of it, which usually I might not point out if anybody else was playing Horus, but you've said it since the beginning, Gore. Aurora on Horus makes all of these things true possibilities.
And realistically, thinking of some of the plays we've seen from this Horus, backdoor, and I should say the ability to kind of jump over a team fight in favor of an objective is something that I've seen done several times. One of my favorite things about Horus, and as we've mentioned, maybe to each other and maybe not on broadcast, it does go off way faster right now than it used to.
Quick.
And being able to set that up, I mean, before, it was something you had to contemplate, you had to think about, you had to set up, it had to take time. You could just kind of rapid fire it now, and honestly, it'll work out for you. It does seem, though, as I think, much to your point, like it's going to be around the Fire Giant. Gold skews in favor, and I should mention the experience, I think, is also worth talking about, because we got some level 20s on the side of Chingle Blorgan, and only 1 on the side of Single Bind. 9 more kills, 26 minutes in. And it is 6,000 gold and some change to set things up. You've got Phoenixes exposed on the bottom of the map, and a Fire Giant that's going to be spawning relatively soon. Outside of maybe the Horus ult, it really feels like the engage, and I mean, it's pretty easy to point out where it's been, 1-1 and 12, right? NMR is not getting the kills, but NMR is absolutely setting them up for
100%.
Everyone else to knock down. It feels like this Daji has just had no real, like, strong answer to it.
Well, look at the lack of answers there can be in terms of relics, right? I mean, there's one beads, it's to layers. The Aegis does make sense in a lot of ways for a lot of the members of Single Bind, but that leaves you so vulnerable to the chains. But now Fire Giant's up. Remember, all 3 gold pips for Chingle Blorgan. So they get the 50 bonus damage to the structures. They also get the protections around it. This is going to be really scary for Single Bind if this Fire Giant gets got.
Well, right now it's relatively low, but it's going to be dropped instead. Remikami and Aurora, their health bars are gone almost instantly, and they have to fall back. Good healing from Aurora, now up to the sky, using that mostly for disengage. Finds his team, tries to stay alive, and they might even be able to pick something else on their side, but you trade 1 for 1, a frontliner for a frontliner, solo for support, and now the chase is on. It's NMR, who just gets absolutely shredded. Donut Doug has the damage, you just have to be able to survive, and he does it! Oh my god, he does it against Fayu, and he keeps going, but Primitive here, once again to save the day, stays alive a little longer. A shot from Maswal will make that one go down. 4 for 3, absolute bloodbath in the right jungle.
You worked so hard for all these advantages you've had throughout it, but I talked about it. You kind of couldn't lose one of the key pieces. You rightfully pointed out, Gore, that NMR had kind of been playing the engage tool, now backed up by going that Magi's as well. It didn't work as clean as we saw. Aurora was the person the most affected by the powwow, but Aurora was able to just use to the skies to immune the worst effects of it. Mink Stinkus tried to go for the engage that has worked so many times and kind of been so unscathed while trying to do it, but instead gets caught in a 1v1 with Layers, who, with that double stacking build that, again, that big patch coming out, hasn't affected it yet here today for Smite Prime. Layers hits like a truck no matter who you are, and at the moment, Mink Stinkus doesn't have a significant amount of protections. Really just has 2 protection items in the Sanguine Lash as well as in the Umbral Link. So that leaves Layers the perfect opportunity to say, yeah, I'll fight you in the jungle. I'm Tsukiyumi, dude. Bring it. You lose him, everything falls apart from there like dominoes, and the effects ring true now.
Yeah, it might be the dream come true. In fact, getting a little aggressive already. At least some damage thrown between the two. Chingle Blorgan stepping up, I'll admit, a little bit further and faster than I thought they would after the way the last fight went. It wasn't necessarily not in their favor. I guess it was technically 1 kill not in their favor. But a big back and forth. Fire Giant still on the board. Ults back up for everyone save for Privative, who should have theirs back relatively soon. Small reset, Jingwei over there to defending the tier 2. And barely in time to make sure that stays up. To make sure, yes, that gold will not be falling the way of Single Bind just before the fight. I'm never too worried about it. I mean, the response time of a Jingwei is almost immediate. In fact, it's going to be immediate here as they go for the Fire Giant. They started it. Now that we can see, at least from our perspective, that Single Bind isn't nearby. Wards covering the map should catch in some of these rotations. They see Aurora and Remikami all by their lonesome in a 2v5. You don't have the team. Doug is on the other side of the planet. He was the saving grace in this last engagement. Remikami barely getting into the ultimate in time to stay alive and trying to get away. Powwow up, used. That's going to force some beads, some CC immunity to the skies. Now they will go. Layers coming in, but they landed a freeze. Oh no! That is devastating for Single Bind, and now you're in a bad spot. Doug rotates in. Doug dies down. Aurora gone as well. And Chingle Blorgan have not lost a single player in this fight just yet. They've got 2 left on their checklist. They find 1, and Remikami left alone and alive with a Phoenix exposed, weakened, and set up. No Fire Giant, just running it down mid for Chingle Blorgan to look for a little bit more. They get the solo laner, they get the DSI, they get 30 uncontested seconds at the end of this game to just run it down. They take down the middle bird, and now with just a little bit of aggression. All they needed was one fight at the very end. And game 2 this round goes to Tingle-Blorgen.
Tingle-Blorgen. Remember the name and practice
It's gonna be hard
saying
to
it because they
forget.
look gross, dude. I can't believe it goes so clean. A lot of it off the back of Privet. I thought it was a disaster for the side of Single Bind from the get-go, and then it almost looked for a second like it was turning around. Everybody was caught across the map differently. Donut Dog was all the way in the left lane at the start of that fight by fire. Then all of a sudden, you're Horus ulting in, things looked so good, and I thought, okay, so Single Bind is just back, chalk it up, GG, go next. That ult from Horus into the CC that Privative have set up for the squad, into the answer back with all the damage, Vayu hitting as hard as he did, it worked like clockwork. It was like they wanted it to go that way. If you're Tingle-Blorgen, they look so... I mean, this Single Bind... This is a team that we watched become one of the best in Smite Prime literally at one point in this year. A team that we can't stop talking about, full of players we couldn't stop talking about. I mean, there's lists that have Remikami as the best solo, kind of swapping places back and forth with Snatty. Donut Dog, one of the best ADCs that we've had in Smite 2 throughout the community scene, amateur scene, and now in Smite Prime for the entirety of Smite 2, realistically. And it just all crumbles to, I mean, not to friendship, because Tingle-Blorgen are very talented, but in a sense, kind of, because he just had McStinkus being able to do anything he wanted the whole game. No answers. You finally answer it, and then it was like, okay, well, that's cool, because Vayu hits like a semi-truck now. So watch out for the crits. NMR, you called this out early, was able to play Engage and was able to play Officer, kind of, by the end. Everybody was getting locked up towards the end of the game just by the chains, and I kind of talked about how you play around presence. I mentioned that you have to play a team fight around knowing that Mordred can ult you and can catch you off guard. Well, Tingle-Blorgen seemed to use that to their advantage and would say, okay, so watch how we utilize our Daji then. Watch how we utilize our Apple of Discord then. And it just all worked so cleanly at the end of the day.
I mean, well executed. Like, it feels like a good draft that everything then also goes great, right? Like, I mean, you have every step that you could have wanted. I think it was this fight as well. So many low health bars. Everybody, it seems like you're just waiting for deaths to start falling through on Tingle-Blorgen, and then none of them happened. That was such a huge deal to be able to pick that up and not lose anybody. And I think, like you, it needs to be mentioned, the assist column that you see from Tingle-Blorgen, double digits for 4 out of the 5 players. Of course, the only reason that McStinkus didn't get it is because he had 8 kills. And being able to find that, you see NMR setting up kills. But Primitive having maybe one of the best Ymir games you could possibly have. And that's despite early on being like 0-3, being bullied, being targeted. It feels like it just is the long-term setup. Well played, well done. And of course, a win for Tingle-Blorgen as they continue to now move forward in this bracket, and maybe a surprise upset for people who are going to be rooting for Single Bind.
And there tends to be a lot of them. Single Bind has become a very popular team. For a while, they were sort of the yin to the clocked in yang, and in this instance, just could not seal the deal early. So I mentioned it because of Hydrogen Bomb. The bracket's up in the open now, even more so.
Bracket has been absolutely blown out wide, and it has been a very, very entertaining and fun day so far. Only 2 games in, we still got more to come, but before we do that, we're going to throw it to a quick break. Welcome back, everyone, into Smite Prime, the June Circuit Week 2. My name's Gormizer, and we've already had a stellar day so far, but there's still more Smite to be played, and I can't do it alone. Alongside me is Malum, as we continue to march on through what has been a very fun day, and what I imagine will continue to be as we continue walking through this bracket, and we can look through what has happened, what will happen, and what could be. Where we come back, Hostile Takeover, who we saw earlier take on Mushroom Kingdom. They won their matchup against Dirty Water, and now will be in the semis as they take on our next matchup. And of course, Tingle-Blorgen, who we just saw win. Continuing their matchup up top. Set up for the finals, right? Semifinals is a really big turning point for a lot of positions in the tournament, right? One team on either of those matches is going to be making it towards the finals, which, if I remember correctly, and you can tell me if I'm wrong and maybe do so ASAP, but would be best of 3, right? So this
Correct,
one
yeah.
will be the last single game that they're going to be potentially on the verge of.
It's like you never missed a step. You're so back.
Yeah, we're so back. We know everything, guys. Trust me.
Everything.
The thing that's really interesting me here, first off, is the fact that what we have been seeing with Hostile Takeover, it's a very strong team. I didn't get to see their matchup versus Dirty Water, but I have to imagine that it was also a very strong performance because it's a very strong team. And so even though if you are looking at it, I guess, in terms of seeding, they're technically quote-unquote lower in terms of 7 is a bigger number than 6. I think that they are a team that is a multi-threat, multi-tiered threat. And out of the top 4, at least in terms of name power, for me, I'm an old head, guys. You gotta sometimes you just gotta lock in with it. They have a lot going for them in terms of I would say expectations. And admittedly, a little bit of reality outside of getting quadrad, almost penta'd at the end of their first game.
Yeah, that is the big thing. But in terms of rosters, you mentioned it, old head, you're back. I get to be the young guy in Smite Prime again, so thanks for that one, Gore. I really needed that. Being the old guy was not for me. You put Malum in C2. This is gonna happen once or twice. Other day, had a gray hair, got pointed out to me by a coworker. I text my wife all upset, and she goes, "Oh, did she point that out? I was trying not to tell you."
That's the most wife response in the world too. That's top tier by her. That's such good work. We got pics and pants. What's funny is every now and then, while we let the band start to roll through, every now and then Katie will notice like a couple great. I probably have a few as well that I'm either unaware of or blissfully, it's thinning up here.
I
so
hit
maybe
mine
there
underneath.
were some and it's just completely gone. But
learning tech already.
She'll notice a few on hers, and it's every now and then I'll be like, oh yeah, that one's from me, and then those 2 are from the dogs, and like this one's from insert some event that happened at some point. See, I get the grace of just losing it slowly. So there's the fun part. Hey guys, I spent most of the last 10 years on camera, so I've been watching my hairline disappear.
Ooh, there's a really fun time lapse you could do. I mean, it makes you feel better. Mort, our fellow commentator Mort the other day was looking at pictures of me on my first broadcast and was like, "Malum, how did your hairline get better as you got older?" Like, shut up, dude. Okay, anyway, let's talk rosters. Let's talk
Smite. There's Smite.
These are players. This is a game. Hostile Takeover has the roster of the names you know. They're disgusting. But there's a lot of ball knowledge to be had on the other side. Because River, MTR, and Alec, they're all pretty great players. D5 and James in particular, though. So OSL, another community league going on right now. I believe signups just closed and their season's about to begin, and you can see them on Smite Game on different days, too. D5 and James are unreal. D5 has been playing for a long time. Somebody who you might be familiar with from a lot of just rank grinding and popping up in every community tournament there's ever been, I think. James is a name that's been really skyrocketing quickly. I will talk on it like it was my ball knowledge. I discovered that, D-Lo was one of the first people to really kind of be all over it on James as a player. But I've seen James like 1v9, truly. There's been matchups I've seen that were best of 5s that could have been 3-0 sweeps if James was on the other team that he lost to. It's actually insane what James is able to do sometimes. I wonder, and it's ironic, because Hostile Takeover, when they were Shabalba Storm, were a team that had this happen to them. I wonder if there's a world where we see the Chupapis kind of play incredible team fights, maybe even get some kills early, and then lose pace of the map. And I think that'll be their key to success. They've got good picks to do it already, but that's the kind of catch to it. Going Thor early, I love that. I've talked about Flex a lot today. The Thor brings that, but it also brings, of course, that semi-global pressure. You have a lot of options to combine it into, but when I look across, I see Newt, Sasano, Gore. We've already seen that today. Yeah. It looked pretty good then.
I was thinking, I mean, even looking at the bans, I believe they're in a position where they could, if things went, perfect for them, they could just run back what we saw in game 1, and I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to do and or did something similar in game 2. It seems like this Newt is a very, very high priority pick for them, and the Susanoo was very kind to them. They played both of these into a Hou Yi earlier, and again, outside of maybe one very large bump at the very end of the game, it was pretty much straight in their control. But it is going to be deviating from what we saw in Game 1 today. The Cerberus that gets locked in, who I believe was banned in that very first game, creates a different dynamic, I would say, because now, earlier when we were watching them play, they were up against the Yamoja, they were up against a lot of big team fight capabilities. I think the Cerberus adds that team fight capability in spades.
I think it's funny. I've talked so much about flex today that I've made it a joke on myself, but genuinely, the Susanoo used to be a flex for this team. Let's not forget that Tegvir was the Susanoo ADC. I think it's so funny that it's gone on so long, and Tegvir has improved so much as a player, that now that there actually is an ADC god pool that Tegvir has access to, we don't see a Susanoo and we're like, could it be ADC though? We don't do that anymore. Instead, the Cerberus kind of fills that role, because it could have gone to Happen, or it could have gone to Karmic. Instead, the Osiris locked in, that gives us our answer. We get the Happen on an aggressive support that I love to see for Hostile Takeover. And the Osiris in particular is really interesting in this matchup. I feel like Osiris is a character that gets forgotten about all too often, despite being amazing in so many different regards, especially not just in the lane, but in team fights, where Hostile Takeover could really look to just blow this game out of the water. There are some good answers, though. The RDO in particular, I love in Hostile Takeover, because what answers a Susanoo better than a cripple, right? That's the whole thing. That is Susanoo's nightmare. And RDO just kind of says, what if I walk with you, put a circle at my feet, and you don't get to play the video game anymore, but you get to watch me stance switch about 35 times. Are you cool with that? Because I'm kind of feeling that.
Here, let's just take about, half, if not more, of your damage, just kind of off the board. Good luck, have fun, see what you can do. Yeah, I agree. I think that's going to be a matchup to keep an eye on, and we'll do so as we jump into game here. Semifinals for this week in Smite Prime. Two Poppies on the left-hand side, playing from the bottom up, already getting a little aggressive in the jungle. Meanwhile, Hostile Takeover on the other side, we've talked about them, we've given them their names, but like you said, James, somebody that you've been keeping your eye on, and maybe someone that will be very pivotal this game on the RDO. Alec, a little late to the rest of the party, but everyone lurking in the grass. No wards, super deep, so I'm curious to see Tegvir's pathing. Same for Happen. Because something
I'm surprised they called that one off, Gore. I kind of thought they were going to hard commit. They had a decent bit of time. You could have given that at least another 5 seconds, and I think if you do that, you might be able to get the pick. I guess they were just looking to see if somebody went there alone early. Maybe they didn't want to take a 5v2. They just wanted to get a quick pick, which fair enough if that's the case. But at the end of the day, turns into not much, and no gold chalices either. Just back to normal, do the waves and go.
Yeah, it's halfway disappointing, I think is the way I would describe it, because I also was expecting something, especially seeing the mini-map that we could, knowing what was there and what was coming. I also feel like, and we've seen this in the past, that sometimes even if you don't get the pick, in a 5v2, forcing, let's say you force Neath to get a backflip level 1, right? Or you force the Cerberus to get the jump instead of getting any sort of damage or stun or breath, any of that. That could be an advantage of its own, but instead, like you said, those are all what-ifs, and we are in the what-ares. This is where we will be. Watching instead, just some poke trade. Tegvir took a little bit, same for Happen, but small reset should help them out. I'm also really excited to see the Osiris, but I think it's just because Osiris as a god really grew on me. Oh my god, Happen. It's happening to them. The damage is good. Oh my god, I didn't expect that. River getting the job done. First blood, almost uneventful. And just done like a normal task of the day. Clean and in the duo lane.
Now, you know what I was talking earlier, the first game of our day, about the Hou Yi aspect being ridiculous to lane against. Because you can just do that. And there's nothing that anyone can do, because you can't really stop the autos from the Hou Yi in this instance. You're just stuck dealing with it. The aspect of Hou Yi is so gross. It continues.
And they get aggressive, leap in, backflip used, but you're just getting chased down. One more auto, one more kill. Why not add another to it? And oh my god. Look, Malum, as far as starts can go for the duo lane, this might be the roughest start Hostile Takeover could have experienced.
It's so bad. I mean, the best thing going for Hostile Takeover is, hey, at least the Huyi didn't get the kills, right? And a solo bolo for James over Karmic.
I mean...
All right, Chupapis.
The opposite.
If the world wasn't familiar with their game, they are now.
And they might be able to find some pullback. Destroyer down, Alec
nice.
Down, 2 kills pulled back by Hostile Takeover. And worth mentioning, I might be conflating games 1 and 2, but so, you know, keep me on point here. But I do feel like I remember Hostile Takeover eating some early deaths in that first game and then turning things around. So it's not necessarily anything to count them out. It's just a very particularly rough start, and those 2 kills will help right the ship just a little bit.
What there is to watch out for, though, I did kind of mention that this could be the case. It's ironic that Hostile Takeover find themselves being the old dogs in this situation. Gotta keep this from getting out of control map-wise. You have the early kills. Hang on, James in trouble.
Knocked up, killed off Rat Milk. With credit for that one, the double tap not quite good enough to get Rat Milk low, but low enough that Destroyer's not going to have to worry about a dive. Vinny Q, level 5, has the ult online. Could have followed something up, but instead, much like earlier, it's going to be focused on farm first, and farm will be gotten by Hostile Takeover. They'll return back to their lanes, back to their positions. A little bit of a push up from Alec, but I think that should be a simple reset. One more kill. And though I think the duo lane wouldn't mind some love from their jungler.
Yeah.
Good
they wouldn't mind
presence.
hitting an auto. The Neath has 181 damage. That means the Neath has hit maybe 2 autos, by the way.
My water bottle sits on that part of my monitor. Did not even, like, I was like, I'm concerned with the top 6. It's all I need to see. The 181 is maybe a little criminal, actually.
Yeah, I mean, like, usually you don't care about player damage this early, but that means the Neath literally can't even get autos off in this laning phase. And I think what's been tough, hang on, oh!
Dunk, good. Karmic uses the ult. The double tap doesn't connect, but you still have the follow-up shell. You stun, good tower. Not enough, and Karmic will get put down there, thanks to and courtesy of Destroyer.
Well, okay, so the short point is, once you are that far behind, you really can't even step up in the wave anymore. So if I'm Tegvir and trying to play back, but it looks like that's not the case for Happen, gets the ult off.
I mean, just fight after fight after fight. At this point, we're both just going to be able to share one because they just will not calm down. Rat Milk rotates in, helps out, takes down River. Honestly, a big kill after 3 uncontested in the duo lane and showing up to help out the squad. Maybe even opening up conversations for soon-to-be maybe invasions. You could step up, try to go for some of the neutral farm. And I think that's going to be all that they really get out of it. Although you might run into Destroyer in the jungle. Rat Milk stunned out, double tapped, spin to win, damage good, and they don't have the lockdown. It's going to be a jungle for jungle trade. Insane that Rat Milk lives as long as they do. And even more insane that BennyQ might be able to get something done. But yeah, River, I've got to give it to River. River has been showing up at the right time, right place every step of the way this game. And has a kill onto BennyQ. Absolute insane play from the support.
You know, maybe you're right. We joked about it before the cast. Maybe this is going to be a 2017 SPL cast. James now taking a little bit of damage, has to back away. This is what I was talking about in picks and bans. When I said, I wonder if there's a world Hostile Takeover find themselves to be like the old SPL teams that Shabalba Storm used to play into, right? Just kind of catching teams off guard by fighting so well and running away with the kill lead. But where back in the day, Hostile Takeover, again, a slightly different roster, different team names, different situations. The problem they ran into, their growing pains, were learning to not lose the map whilst getting all those kills. I feel like there was a game in the final season of SPL where Shabalba Storm with Rat Milk as the jungle was ahead like 10 kills but down 3k gold. Yeah, that's what I'm worried about for the Chupapis here. Can't do that. You have to turn those kills into something you can feast on.
It's not just about making the space, it's what you do with it. Right now, finally getting some more damage online, and enough that we don't have to talk about it. Those Suns doing a lot, but here comes the Cerberus from behind.
Thor!
You can't write that off, but Thor, like you said, lands, and that's going to shut down the duo lane in their tracks. Happen trying to stay alive, but cannot do so. Charon just brings too much to the table, and now Rat Milk destroyed all of that to pick up MTR, when instead you've got a 5-in-1 Charon, who's now going to help his team start up a Gold Fury.
They pull the first objective. Where's the Chupappies believers? They're doing everything they've got to do so far, Gore, and they're doing it so well. Everything's looking so clean. They do get off of the Gold Fury, but they've established so much map presence.
Little bit more.
Oh my god, okay. That Betty lives. Sure, dude. Whatever. Sure. He lives that.
And the ones you don't expect will always kill, and the ones you do expect, for some reason, they walk away with no real support. I mean, maybe there was a health pot ticking that was helping a little bit there, but there's only so much you can do. Instead, survival, 10-6, but like you said, the gold lead now starting to get closer to 2,000. We'll see where it continues to go as the damage destroyer actually turned around on River. Do you need to get this one? And it is going to be Happen who closes it out. Now, up into the sky goes the Thor. Looking for a dunk. Finds it on the Cerberus, but does not have the lockdown necessary. Now, you're surrounded by 3, but you've got a lot. The double tap onto Rat Milk does the damage you need to shut down the opposing jungler and get another kill on the belt of this Thor.
What a game so far for D5. Looking clean with it. The double tap not going to be there. The Thor is going to go down, though, the Benny Q.
Alec? Yeah, not much to do about that one.
Spat on. Yeah, spat on.
I mean, just chased down, just set up. Oh, hold on. Math, 20 kills in less than 10 minutes. It has just been non-stop action. To the point, I mean, Malum, I was saying earlier, I have a bad habit of no longer asking questions. I don't even think I could in this game because there's just so much happening every time I drop.
What's the need, right? Because we're just fighting. And the Chupappies want that. That's the thing. The more and more we're fighting, hostile takeover is almost kind of falling back into some old habits that they used to have as a team. I guess with the exception being Benny Q as kind of being that addition to the roster I was talking about in place of who used to be Globe pretty consistently. They're like, yeah, we'll scrap, we're down. But in doing that, objectives are going to the wayside and not getting grabbed. Benny Q aggressing.
Alec low, and this should be a pretty simple pickup from Benny Q. The ult gets dropped, and that has the damage necessary to get it done. But it is a sporadic fight. You've got the solo laners kind of hanging around in the right side jungle. It actually might end up being bad for James, who's baited into a fight with Karmic. Locked down, stunned out. Now you've got Rat Milk. The damage is good. You just need to be able to lock them down, and they do. And that's going to be 2 picked up for none.
Wait, D5 landed. That's ambitious.
Going deep. And like you said, maybe in the worst spot you could be. Turns around, has some damage onto Rat Milk. You're looking for a wall double tap. Instead, you're just going to go ahead and teleport out of there. Not get the kill, but save your life, which is probably worth a little bit more to you overall. It's 11-11. 22 kills now. That one's a little bit easier to add up for some reason. And well, the gold has shifted back in favor. Now hostile takeover. I'd love to get a look at the charts when we get a chance, although if we even get the opportunity to talk about it when they're finally shown up, because it doesn't even matter, they're going to keep fighting. MTR jumps forward, chasing down Tegvir, and the damage is good. The Suns are dropped. It doesn't look like the mobility is going to be there, at least not enough to find the kill happen. As well, barely stays alive. And finally, a small, if even brief, respite from the action. It's not even happening! MTR just jumped in onto Tegvir and is going to be finding some damage over there, but he's going to lose his life in the process!
Okay, what it looked like what happened was as MTR was doing the purple buff, I think Tegvir was like trying to do, I think he might have been ulting and then eventually let it rip, and MTR took the bait, backed off the purple and took the 1v1 not having his own ultimate, and that's how Tegvir got the better of it. So MTR, just the moment got to him. He's been putting Tegvir on a poster this game. Tegvir has been unable to leave the tower line for the majority of laning phase. The second we get into the jungle, we get a little bit in over our heads. Kind of what happened to D5. Ambitions get the best of us and we fall, but now Tegvir looks like he's going down in response.
I mean, did you see that graph? What was slightly in favor of Chupappies is now just absolutely curved the other way. Hostile takeover.
This is what I was worried about, Gore. This is what I was
It's a hostile
horrified of for
takeover
Chupapis.
of the gold,
Yeah.
of the kills. I mean, it is everything that you would want, and Ratmilk might even go for more. MTR should still have the dash, and that is more than enough to at least create the space, but it doesn't save everybody on your team. Thor, forced to run away, happens, still chasing down kills. And that tier 2 might not be as big of a savior as you would like, especially when Benny Q's around. The damage follow-up, oh man, the double kill from the mid laner. Courtesy of Happen, and well played. And now MTR, yeah, you gotta be careful over here, man. They are looking and hunting. The damage is there, and you might have taken the bait. They run forward, and it's gonna be a kill onto the carry. A third one,
Crips.
triple for Benny Q. And now with River here, if you have the follow-up, if your team has the CC, you might be putting a fourth on the board. Has to run away is the Charon. Has to play carefully. Has to. There's an underline under there, but Thor's up in the air. Thor is going in deep once the kill on to Happen. Happen so far alive. The wall is good, and they'll get that one. But can you chase down Benny Q after the triple kill that was just gotten? It looks like Newt is in a bad spot, and with no one rotating in, they're just wasting time. Instead, they'll trade Benny Q for the Gold Fury.
So this is what I was worried about, is this, exactly. That gold swing is ridiculous for the side of Hostile Takeover. You said it best, it's a hostile takeover of everything in the game. The gold, the experience, the kills, the vibe, it all. Karmic might have to pay the Pied Piper for the Gold Fury, but still alive for now.
Is low, might be able to find James in the process.
Okay, Karmic.
I'm gonna be honest, yeah, I was gonna say that was a little risky one to begin with. And instead, well, I guess a small divot, now finally small pulled back for your Order squad. For those of you rooting for the blue team here, it's not all over and not all written in stone. In fact, if anything, it's far from it. There's 30 kills. It's been 14 almost minutes, not even. There's no prediction map for this game because there's no way to know when a fight's gonna break out, except for it seems like the answer might be always. Did they lock eyes? Then yes, they will fight.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny you bring that up because that's something I've noticed. Dude, like, I don't care. You have a bug squad. I've got a level 75 Charmander. I'm going to destroy you. And that's what Hostile Takeover is doing with Benny Q. That's their, like, level 99. They've only used the one-trick Benny Q. That's who they're throwing at Chupapis. And the biggest problem right now, I think, unfortunately, for the side of Chupapis is the Discordia. Alec is a really talented mid laner, but so far hasn't been able to get too comfortable and establish a foothold in this game. Kind of the same case for MTR. Like I said, laning-wise, Tegveer just kind of got stuck at tower line, but you can see it didn't ultimately matter all too much. Okay. D5 ults in and gets obliterated. Sure.
Sometimes you land, you dunk as Thor, and you shouldn't have dunked. You should have gone away. Unfortunately, that's going to be the lockdown. Now the chase is on, and unfortunately for Alec, Happen has enough damage on their own that they are doing everything they can. James taken down on the side as well. Alec will stay alive because of it, but it's just because they're chasing down somebody who's got 5 kills on the squad. They're going to be looking at River instead. Seems like that will be called off. Pyromancer did go the way of Hostile Takeover before that engagement began, and it costs a couple ults from Chupapis to make sure that it could even level out. Now, it will be the Moonlight Queen on the right-hand side taking over and going the way of Hostile Takeover and setting up for the future conversation of Fire Giant as they continue to dominate in the kills and now in the gold.
It's wild how aggressive Benny plays on this Newt. He plays it more almost kind of like an assassin at times, you know, or like an inting ADC, but he's 6'2" and 5. It's crazy just how willing he is to play aggressive when that Staff of Mirrodin is up to usually double dash to reposition, but it just gives you so many options on the Newt. And we've seen how hard those comments are hitting. It's just been impossible to deal with. Already has some penetration online. Like I said earlier, going to go that Ob Shard next and just do so much to the side of Chupapis. D5 is also slowing down. And this is a problem in particular because Ratmilk being ahead of D5 in gold and everything is one thing, but D5 choosing to just now grab that Heartseeker, the items are good, I just feel like D5's ability to dive in with the Thor ult and 1v3 is now a thing of the past. You had it when you were a couple levels ahead of Rat Milk and you were able to bully. Now you're diving in on, what, a level 16 Newt? A level 15 Neath, potentially? It's just the options aren't there. D5 can't bait his team and play too over-aggressive. Gotta play it patient. Happens certainly not.
Yeah, Happen maybe playing a little too aggressive. Bites off more than he can chew. Low health, but the shield saves him, as well as the team. The wave, though, comes crashing through from the Charon. So far, a lot of low health bars, a lot used, but nobody dead just yet. Alec will be chased down by Rat Milk, and Rat Milk will not stop there. They've got D5, they've got the chase. James already low, and this tier 2 isn't going to do a lot to save you in the process. You have to be careful, you have to get out of here, but you just cannot escape the onslaught. That is hostile takeover. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kills in the mid lane, and the opportunity for the field to be played. It looks like the option is Fire Giant.
You said, oh, we want to play arena. Chupapis, well, the hostile takeover squad said, bet, we got it. They know exactly how to play this way. They spent years being able to dominate through the mechanical skill when they're fighting alone. And in this instance, they were able to read the map better this game and fight a little bit better. Now, once you get Fire Giant 2, Gore, those leads were already getting ridiculous. Now they've spiraled out of control. 2-level leads in almost every single lane. I mean, most of your kills, if your Chupapis, belong to River on the Charon, who, as we've now seen already, has slowed down significantly, and the ability to bully as hostile takeover has been leveling up, and everybody's been getting stuff online. This is a dire situation now for the Chupapis. I don't even think they can get this Gold Fury with Karmic around, and there's a fight that could go in mid.
Karmic just jumped in. Karmic's 1v3 and did not seem to care too much about that number. D5, you had mentioned in mid, isolated and singled out. Now, all of those people who were distracted by the Thor are willing and open to chase down anybody on this left side jungle. Alec, forced to run back, slowed down. This is the strength of an Osiris. Just slow. Damage is good. And now you've got Cerberus coming in for the finish. The 1-2 punch of the front line. Absolutely insane. And honestly, a little bit kind of rude if you're really putting it down. I mean, no way does that just happen to you. If you're Alec, you're feeling pretty put down on it. And it's going to be the mid Phoenix that's under siege. Right side of the map, James pushed up, but the left side Phoenix is being threatened as well. Thor up in the sky, dunked down, looking for a kill on to happen. And does find it, but you trade lives. Is that what you needed to get rid of the support? Does that slow down hostile takeover? So far, the answer seems to be like no. Left side Phoenix, guess what? Goes down.
You brought a pusher.
Without the Cerberus, the question is whether or not you go for the Titan. You've got some damage. You've got Benny Q, who wants to seem to get aggressive. Throws down the ult. A lot of damage. Oh my god. They get rid of Alec, and they're just chipping him away one at a time. James is low, but manages to stay alive, and there it is. You called it. The dagger might not be enough to get Rat Milk out alive. But you keep the rest of the squad. TBD, Benny Q's relatively in a kind of a bad spot. He's in a bad spot if the chase can catch him.
There's a lot of tools up, though, so even if they do catch the Newt, this fight could go pretty decent for hostile takeover. They turn it around, James steps up, now the damage is on, and the Artio might just fall.
Yeah, it just does, right? I mean, just absolutely destroyed. Speaking of which, D5's back up on the board. Might come around and cause some trouble. Karmic has been just an absolute menace on this Osiris right now, walking through the wall of the Thor and then using it to kill off the same aggressor. Now turning it around. Benny Q, who has been flirting with death this entire time, just absolutely demolishes Alec. They've demolished 4 pieces of the team. James not back for another 15 seconds. And it feels like if they get this last kill on the Charon, you've got the minions, you've got the damage. You don't got the mid laner, but you got everybody else to just walk on in and try to take down this Titan. And it will be exactly what they wanted. An absolute fiesta of kills, but hostile takeover at the end of the day, standing on top with the win.
Hostile Takeover said, listen, guys, we see a lot of ourselves in you when we were getting into the competitive scene. The problem is we hate ourselves. Let's teach you a little something about fighting in the jungle. And they put Chupapis in their place. There's so much potential on that Chupapis roster. I cannot stress that enough. You could see it early, but just got a little bit outpaced on the map. But to me, the most interesting thing, Gore, I'm curious if you saw the same thing, because you've seen as many SPL games as one person can see in a lifetime. Hostile Takeover did something we don't normally see when teams are in the position that they were, right? You're the experienced team against a roster that's got some younger players, some people who've been around the scene but are getting a lot better. They're bringing the fight to you. They're getting the kills. I feel like usually what would happen is we would see that experienced team take the objectives, farm only, and avoid fighting, then out farm. Hostile Takeover did both. They said, sure, we're down to fight. Let's play arena. We'll worry about objectives later. That's boring anyway. And they won there too. I don't think I've seen that in this particular dynamic before.
It's not something that really does happen too often, because like if you think about it, especially the higher level of play, the punishment for essentially missing your buttons, right, is so high, which is what happens from Hostile Takeover. If one ability goes wrong, I'll use Destroyer as an example. Sorry, Destroyer. But D5, a dunk down into the back, you land on somebody. Yes, you kill happen, right? That happens at that mid-Phoenix. You get that kill, but now you're just so out of position. So is that ult really worthwhile for you as the jungler to trade with the support? And the answer almost always is going to be no. And so when you're making trades like that, if you're Hostile Takeover, you've got enough of a lead, you're pretty sure you're hitting your buttons better. That's what gives them this opportunity. I mean, there were times where it seemed like they were ready to pull back, but then they'd get another kill, and the question then becomes, why would we? Like, why would we stop this onslaught? Like, now instead of just getting a tier 2 and maybe a Fire Giant, we can get a Phoenix, and now that we've got the Phoenixes, oh wait, we can put pressure on the Titan. Now that we have people dying and left, we're just gonna run this down, because like you said, I mean, I was waiting for 8 minutes, 9 minutes to see somebody fall back for the Fire Giant, but it was just a continual string of deaths. I don't feel like we got to see Chupapis at full strength for maybe a solid 8 minute of gameplay. I mean, it felt like somebody was always dead or on the verge of death, and that really is the only reason. There's no reason to give up the pressure if you've got it, and that's where Hostile Takeover, I think, show the veteran decision to maybe do the opposite of going for the farm. Instead of letting Chupapis get back in the game and get some experience and get their gold under belt, instead just hold them in their base where they can't do anything.
It's kind of like Hostile Takeover, what they were experiencing, they're like, okay, if the Chupapis are going to funnel, that's fine. I love funnel cake. I like going to the fair. That was the vibe. The Chupapis just were like in this almost this string of thought of, oh, we almost got a kill, let's clean it up. Oh, we almost got this, let's clean it up. Let's put some more pressure on, and they really paid for it. I think that's going to be a key to Chupapi's future, because I think 100% this is a team that maybe a month from now, maybe even a tournament from now, potentially, it could be a week-to-week thing, could really be a contender for continuing to make it far in the bracket and making a name for themselves. Today, they had the benefits of the bracket. We talked about it being a bit busted open, but man, did they make their opportunity worth it. They looked great today.
I think you highlighted it really perfectly during that game, which was you've got a lot of the kills, you've got a lot of the pressure capabilities of the early game down. It is making sure you control the gold around that as well. That's always the hardest thing to overcome, but they seemed pretty on point for a while. It's just that Hostile Takeover is Hostile Takeover. They've been in that position before and know how to deal with it. They also have credit for the wildest into a game that we're probably going to see, I'm going to say this month, and maybe the most kills in a game that we're going to see, I might also say
that one's pretty confident, I think.
So
that one you can feel good about.
And guess what? We get to watch them one more time because they made their way to the finals, but I think we need a little bit of a break, need a little bit of a reset, and of course it is going to be best of 3 as we continue moving forward. So for now, we're going to kick it to a quick break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the June circuit here for Smite Prime. My name's Gormizer, and we are headed into the finals. A lot of, I think, anticipation around this one. We've seen Hostile Takeovers twice today, and we're going to see them one more time in terms of match, 2 more at minimum in terms of games, but maybe 3 more times. We're in the weeds here. We got to get out of there. I'll introduce who's with me today and who's been hanging out the entire time. It's been Malum, and I appreciate you hanging out with me because there has been a lot that has been going on, a lot between all of these teams, one of which we're about to see for the first time today. But before we get into that and we talk about the bracket and all that stuff, we're going to talk about what they're playing for to begin with, which is, of course, the prizing as they go through the circuit. As is typical, right? 16th, 13th, 20th. The play-ins for that final week as they continue moving forward, $5,000 is something that they are, of course, are also playing for. And as we have seen it, we looked at week 1 a little bit earlier, and as you have mentioned a couple times, but Hydrogen Bomb not being here has opened up this bracket for teams that we don't typically get to see to move forward. And as such, Hostile Takeover, I'm sure you, Malum, have personally been waiting to hear me say this, is going to be taking on Butt Lovers as they go into the finals here. Look, I can relate to this team's name, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Instead, we'll talk about these teams and what they're bringing.
Welcome back, Gormizer. We out here loving butts, baby.
You know what? I'm gonna write down what I was about to say, but it's probably better not on broadcast. That one's probably the best play to start. Instead, we'll look at it and talk about how this all works. Because finals, hey guys, best of threes on Smite Prime, they're done a little different than how they used to been done. And so, if you haven't been around, you haven't seen it. You might not be on game. So let me put you on game. In a best of 3 set, once a god gets played, specifically played, not banned, when they're played, they get locked away in the vault, and they can no longer be picked by either team for the rest of the set. So let's say if Team A plays Thor, let's say Hostile Takeover. You know what? I'm going to use Hostile Takeover. If Benny plays Newt in game 1, Benny's not playing Newt again. That's just how it's going to work, because it's going to be vaulted.
If Benny gets Newt, though, it's cooked, so let's not...
Yeah, if Benny gets Newt, we'll talk about game 2, So
yeah.
It definitely opens up a lot of opportunity for some gods that aren't usually seen to be played, and it helps balance some things out overall in terms that you maybe you just let them accidentally. It's not ever on purpose, but maybe the draft gets out of hand in one of the 3 games. As long as you're in a good spot, you're able to maybe bounce back and know that those gods aren't there. So we'll see what happens. Who's going to be taken into the vault after game 1 by seeing who gets picked up here in game 1. Picks and bans, Butt Lovers on the left side. Hostile Takeover. I'm going to have to say that so many times, this matchup.
Do you think Jithens is just like, knowing that of all people, somehow he ended up with you and I on the Butt Lovers cast? Do you think he's just like drenched in sweat, like worst birthday of his life?
There's
scared.
And I mean, I'm like on the. You know what? I'll just say whatever. Before there were times where I had to be very careful, but like, what are they gonna do? Fire me? Like, yeah. We're here and we're stuck. And we've got it going, baby. It's time for Butt Lovers and Hostile Takeover. The bands are rolling through. Artio, Aphrodite, Pele taken off the board up front. The Aladdin as well. I had to buy time because Malum's not here to talk about.
You were owed one. Oh my god. Oh, John Hirez, look away.
You made me laugh so hard. I got a little lightheaded.
Me too. I'm feeling dizzy. We're gonna start tapping the wives.
Baby,
water,
please. This is what we got.
Please. How fast can they text their wives? Oh, okay. Anyways, so Pyromancer, right?
Some more. Some Pyromancer. How about that Pyromancer? I wonder where the next couple of bands are going to go. You know what? I can recenter. Oh, no, you've got something. You're probably way more... Look, hey, you do the thing.
Look, usually I'm the one who gets us into this mess, so it's kind of nice to be the one to try to navigate out of a mess for once. It's kind of refreshing.
Take the shovel out of my hands.
Yeah, I don't have to go to the office. The first lock in, the Agni. Word of the day, flex, right? Agni loves the flex right now. The aspect is so disgusting. Could go ADC potentially. Obviously, always a threat in mid, but the ADC aspect is very strong. It depends on the player. Not a lot of people are super duper comfortable. Speaking of Butt Lovers, of course, Cerberus locked in with the Thor. That is nasty. Got him again! Listen, we're already playing on the knife's edge.
There's a certain point where we have to make sure to not walk beyond the line.
Away. They took our cameras away. No way! I've never gotten in that much trouble. Smite Prime, it's been nice knowing you. Listen, enjoy Musi and Kerberos. If that's what you want, you can have it. You know. So anyway, Jingwei.
Jingwei. She's got good. She can rotate real good, huh? She's good at that.
does
She's
crit.
good at getting
She
back in the
crits.
lane.
And Yorm.
She's
So
got good damage.
okay. So honestly, though, looking
Fine,
at
this is a finals.
looking at the BL draft, they're kind of taking away a lot of what Hostile Takeover was playing earlier. So that is a really good call out from them. Because if you can't look, there's only 3 bans right now. We haven't upped it to 4 or 5. There are some community leagues that have already gone all the way up to 5 bans because they feel like it's a need. But we're still at 3 here on Prime, and vault bans don't really matter in game number 1. It doesn't happen until game number 2. So to be able to take away and control some of Hostile Takeover's draft here is really good work from the butt lovers. And, you know, roster-wise, I'm sure a lot of people... Listen, the worst part is I'm pretty sure assuming the captain is playing, there's also a player named Butt Lover.
Yeah.
So we're having a really good time today. They
Newt
are
Medusa.
all Smite 1 demons. You know, deep cut lore, it's going to get buried in all the silliness, but one of the first places I was casting Smite was the Smite Draft League. It was a draft format similar to OSL that's going on right now. Butt Lover was drafted before Rat Milk, and Rat Milk was usually considered like you have to draft Rat Milk because he will just win you the money. Butt Lover got drafted before him, and it was like a really big deal. And remember, he played really well into the season. He didn't have the greatest team around him, so they came up short. But that was one of the first experiences I had watching Butt Lover play. So for it to be against a player who now we view with such pedigree, really could be really exciting. But man, you give the Newt to Benny, the Medusa to Tegveer, and now the Daji to Rat Milk. Or the Thor, which, by the way, you know, you never know what could happen. Also, one of the nastiest picks Karmic has, not just Rat Milk. So, boy, oh boy, Hostile Takeover, chill with this draft.
I'll put my personal preference out there, the Daji in the jungle, right? I just think she does too much to really let her go anywhere else, but it is it's a menacing kind of draft, it feels like, from Hostile Takeover. Not to knock anything against the Butt Lovers draft here, because Susanoo, Charon, Yorm, like, there's a lot of survivability, there's the potential for aggression, there's the potential to create those scenarios that you can find success, but Cerberus can start a fight, Thor can start a fight, the way Benny Q plays Newt can start a fight, Medusa will start a fight with her old Daji can start a fight. Pretty much anybody and everybody on Hostile Takeover can decide, yeah, you know what, we're gonna go in here, and it feels like that decision factor on every step of the way is going to be a problem, and it just gets stronger as the game goes on. I mean, Thor gets tankier, the Daji gets deadlier, like, and this Newt, if anything, you know, BL should be happy because that means the Newt's not going to get played no matter what in game 2, but you have to endure it for at least, let's say, about 25 minutes here.
Maybe if we put the in front of them, then we can say TBL, and then we got a team name. We can workshop that. It fits better on a t-shirt because then you put the Butt Lovers on the back of the t-shirt.
Sure, yeah, you know what? Sure. With like an arrow that points right
Tess
down.
takes my camera away again.
That's it. But no, I have to go too. No, wait, I'm here. Yes, perfect, awesome. Hey, guess what? I am still gonna disappear though, because we're going into game here. Game 1 of the final. Butt Lovers versus Hostile Takeover. The Vault Bands we'll talk a lot more about in game 2, because as of now, these are the 10 gods you have to deal with. These are what you're dealt. And the question is going to be what they have kind of laid at their feet, right? Raspy, you had mentioned it. This Agni, a very solid pick. Inferno on this Daji, this Jingwei, the other one that has 2 syllables. They're both very consistent. The question is going to be whether or not they can reach the same peaks. And of course, speaking of peaks, we finally get a peak C at Tegveer, finally not on the Neath, and what that will bring for this game. Because I think both games we've seen so far, it's been the Neath gameplay. So, matchups, nothing crazy starting off early on. And it'll leave us to wonder. And I guess I'll ask where your eyes wander. I see, almost 3 beads on the side of Butt Lovers, recognizing that Rat Milk is a pretty big threat and making sure that they're not going to have to deal with that at the level 5 mark.
Yeah, a lot more relic diversity for the side of Hostile Takeover. I want to call attention to the jungle matchup in particular, because, I mean, it's Rat Milk, so we know that's going to be prevalent throughout it, but Eats and how Eats matches up into Rat Milk, that's going to be important to watch. A lot of poke trading out in duo. But you notice the way the Charon and Jingwei are going to have to take the safer route around. And same with Solo. Buttlover getting pressured out. So this might be another brawling game as Karmic goes in.
Cooldowns maybe playing just
breathe.
a little bit of a role there. Yeah, it's like Karmic. I was waiting. I was like, okay, look, we're a level 2 Thor? Where's the wall? Where's the spin? Where's the hammer? One of the three has to come out because surely you've got them. But realistically, when you've used it all already to get the damage on board, you don't quite have the kill. That being said, this is a dangerous position for a Yorm to stand in. Again, pre-level 5 is the easiest time to kill a Yorm. It might be one of the only times to really be able to kill a Yorm consistently. And so I love that Karmic is already putting pressure out and getting that damage and just kind of showcasing that this lane is one that is not going to be easy.
The thing I wanted to bring up with Eats before. Eats playing into Rat Milk will be fun to watch, as there is some trouble in mid lane onto the Agni. Raspy taking a lot of damage, but has the space to be okay. Eats, I used to see Eats play a lot of kind of more hyper carry style characters, but the thing about Susano that I really like here for Eats is it gives Eats the chance to kind of take advantage of this dodgy before she can get ultimate online. Now, we're already almost there, but Susano can just do some things that Dodgy doesn't feel as good with. The ultimate is just so disgusting for Dodgy, right? That's the big key of it. Ratmill can look to make a play happen elsewhere, but so far has not been able to, which is a little on the rough side. I would like to see Eats kind of pick up the pace, as Raspy might be dead.
Raspy in, yeah, bad spot. Benny Q, though, might end up being the one who pays the price for it. Does get first blood, but you have Eats right there. And unfortunately, not with enough cooldown, damage, all of it, to be able to find anything super early on. So first blood goes the way of Benny Q, not the way you want this game to start if you've been watching the way Hostile Takeover have been playing for BL.
Kind of the worst start you could have.
Very dangerous. Yeah, it's very, honestly, based on the games I've seen today, letting Benny Q have anything goes pretty much the wrong way. And it seems like that could end up being returned back. Eats is getting aggressive. Eats has the damage. One more auto, one kill! And pays it back with a little bit of help from Raspy.
And that's exactly what I want to see from Eats. You're on the Susano, so you're just able to kill in such a cleaner way than most characters can at this point of a game early on. Take advantage of that. And Benny in particular, we've seen a lot so far that Benny's able to use the dash on Newt to reposition and keep himself safe. Susano can stick with that very well. Purple buff invade from Hostile Takeover.
Happen already, halfway down, but so is the Charon. And it seems like Happen low enough and wise enough to get on out of there. And I would say, as well, the duo lane for BL to hold back, to pause, to not get too aggressive and go too deep into the jungle. Instead, it's a reset. Again, 1-1, read the kills. 4 minutes in, a slower pace than the last game Hostile Takeover we're in. But maybe a good one for us, because it's giving us that moment to actually focus on the game instead of focusing on every other second being an engagement, a fight. But of course, as I say that, there are going to be some neutral camps that are coming up, and that's going to be something worth fighting over. Inferno is going to put some pressure out onto that. Tegveer, though, with control, and more importantly, with a support right behind him, is going to be there. But left on the ground, I think Inferno might have been able to find that last weaved auto.
Inferno is a player I'm excited to get to see in finals and excited to talk about. Inferno, part of one of the first big roster blow-ups, really, that we've seen. The previous roster that Inferno was on, I believe, with Raspy having blown up, that had Stewie in the jungle and the like. But Inferno has been one of the crazier ADCs to watch. I think undervalued, a little bit out of sight, out of mind at times. You know, it's easy for, if you don't have a team that has a lot of streamers, hang on, 1v1 in the jungle, Pow Lao out.
Damage so far so good from the Dodgy. One more auto has it, but rotation from Raspy balances it out. Now Thor here in the air looking for a dunk. The question is, will he actually go in for it? And that is going to be the combo with the Newt as well. The damage is good. One more hit and one kill for Karmic. One more on the board for Hostile Takeover. And a little bit of poke onto the Yorm just for funsies at the end.
That's how you play it. Just like that. And watch for that a lot in particular. Because one thing I've noticed about Benny on the Newt is Benny does not miss Skyfall. And not just does he not miss Skyfall, his decision-making with Skyfall is remarkable. That ultimate from Newt, it's so good. I keep talking about things that people undervalue, underrate. I think we all know the value of that ultimate. The distance you travel is insane. The size of the ultimate is insane. Solo kill is insane.
Especially for Karma. I mean, realistically, it's been pretty aggressive. I'd say it's a solo kill while Yorm has the ult, right? Like, that's what catches me off guard there.
Yeah. But you're not using that word this game. Not using that word.
You gotta
again.
play carefully, Malum, okay?
Oh god, I'm the worst person to have on this game, man. Oh god. Okay. The thing that I'm going to keep looking at throughout this is how are we controlling Benny? Eats taking a fight in the jungle with Ratmilk, but Ratmilk able to close the distance pretty quickly and separate himself out thanks to the side camp there. When we go around objectives, what's the deal with Skyfall? Are we saving Skyfall? Are we comboing with Thor? Karmic loves to rotate early on the store. That's one thing that you'll see. Karmic usually is somebody who literally parks on the island, turns on Netflix, and hangs out until the team is like, all right, it's time. On Thor, Karmic gets active. Raspy getting active in mid.
Benny Q, dunk down, pal out, combo, damage, good, Eats dead. Raspy might be following him to the grave, the cemetery, cropping up on this side of the map. A dash creates some distance, no one rotating in, at least not the Thor. But it's a dodgy, a little bit of movement, a little bit of closed gap, and you might be able to get your dash. Might not be able to find him under the tower. Now Thor up into the sky.
No
Raspy,
way.
you are not safe. Good dash makes sure that you stay alive a little longer. But emphasis on the little longer. But now Benny Q and Ratmilk, a little too deep, a little too far, and get chased out. One of them pays for it with their lives. Ratmilk looks like they might be able to get out. Happen is under pressure, as is Karmic, but I don't know if either of them are too worried about it. Thorwall
Karmic's
stunned
got
good
no
on
mana.
Chu, and creates a little bit, but like you said, no mana to work with. Tower still a very far run away, but with the help of Happen, and with the threat of the map, and now with the rotations of Ratmilk coming back in, that might be enough for the Order Squad to fall back.
A little bit messy. Long time put into that, and just an insane amount of commitment. Techbeer taking the 1v1 with Inferno. Inferno has some damage back. Ultimate's out. They're going to trade him.
Ratmilk bit off more than he could chew on the right-hand side, taken down.
Okay.
Didn't I just said that you guys weren't fighting at the same pace of the last game. Calm down a little bit.
Yeah, mute the stream, guys. There's rules against that here. You know, it's that kind of vibe. That 1v1 tells me a lot, because Inferno, I talked about this before, Inferno is one of the grossest ADCs around. In particular, I've noticed Inferno really likes those 1v1s and to kind of utilize them to get ahead. Now, Jingwei into Medusa, we've already seen this matchup today. It's a weird one, and Inferno definitely doesn't have the most tools online early to deal with the Medusa in the 1v1. But Tegveer being able to establish some lane pressure is really important, because one, Tegveer, you know, started ADC in Smite 2, transitioned to jungle, was one of the best junglers that was in the game. Now going back to ADC, for him to be comfortable is big, because it allows Ratmilk to put no attention duo. How many times have we seen Ratmilk gank duo today? It's not that many at all throughout all the games that we've seen. It gives Ratmilk the freedom to get Benny Q ahead, to help out Karmic, to chase those fights really deep. It's very freeing for Tegveer to be so self-sufficient over on his own island.
Now, right now, we might be seeing some of that
dashed.
sufficiency, but there's going to be a 3v2, so now Tegveer's in a bad spot. The wave comes through, and that keeps the engagement going for the Medusa longer than they would like, but you've got the
he's on the
numbers
way.
coming over. Karmic gets a karma kill, I guess. Cakes down Butt Lover on the right-hand side of the map solo, and now the engagement continues. Eats, burned down in the blink of an eye, and Benny Q with a dunk from above. Doesn't have the damage to quite lock down Inferno thanks to the ultimate. And that should be a wash, but that Gold Fury's there. Now Tegveer's kind of low, and it might be playing with fire. One kill comes out of it, 2 kills come out of it, and one of them's on the other side of the map.
Hostile Takeover has such a unique way of making the map feel so much smaller than it is. If I'm in duo, the rotation time it feels like it takes a team to answer when I get ganked, I mean, it's 10 years. It's a full decade. For Hostile Takeover, they're there in seconds when it's needed, it feels like. Their read of the map is so good. Whoever's making the calls for the rotations is on it.
Damage in mid, good. Great wall, only catches one, but eats the brunt of that damage, and that is going to be Benny Q with a nice little simple follow-up to get the kill. And it has exploded from a relatively slow pace just a few minutes ago. Now, 13 kills on the board, and 9 of them in favor of Hostile Takeover. 31k, almost 32, to match up about 3,000 over Butt Lovers. And they are not slowing down at any rate. This is without a Gold Fury, by the way. This is all just raw farm that they've been able to pick up off the map. The question is where the next engagement's going to be. Karmic gets out of there and gives us maybe a reset. Might be a fight over here. Yorm doing Yorm things. Should be able to get out of this one.
Thor is back.
Should
and the ult's already been
be able to
committed.
get out of this one.
Yeah, Karmic goes up. This could work out.
Dunk down good, and then you've got the wall blocking off the path. And there's only so much you can do when Rat Milk's in the neighborhood as well. Good burn, good damage, good call by Karmic. And good presence of mind, but that's 2 people on right, so that opens up the Gold Fury on left. Butt Lovers take it up. And they're going to hold on to it.
Side. Benny.
Oh my god, Charon's just gone before I could even register what happens to him. And now, the rest of this crew needs to play carefully. Eats is taking a lot of damage. Has to fall back. Gold Fury is still available. And a misengagement, a misstep here could give the Gold Fury up. Instead, it's Inferno burned down. Simply taken by Happen. And now Raspy, not much to do about it. Rat Milk, powwow, kill, dominance, hostile takeover. That's the words. Those are the only ones you need to hear.
Very, very hostile to the Tushy team. Hostile Takeover's playing no games. they're
Enemy team has destroyed the Gold Fury. Your middle tower is under attack.
You tried to get away with saying that in a straight voice and with a straight face. I can't believe it.
I did until you got me. I was so good. I was so good with it. Benny takes the 1v1 mid, has the damage, and Eats is gonna fall.
Now it's Inferno coming back in looking for Bin EQ, but they just can't fight it. The combos from Hostile Takeover are just too strong. Luckily for Raspy, you manage to dodge out of one ability, but another one pulls you in. You get taken down by Bin EQ, but it's not all for naught. Tegvir at least goes down, but is it enough, really, at the end of the day? You get a tier 1 tower as well. That might help a little bit, but it's Gold Fury. It's 5,200 gold, and it's almost 8,000 experience, all in favor of Hostile Takeover.
Remember how you said when we were talking about vault bans and laughing about tushies, Benny won't get Newt, right? And if Benny gets Newt, he only gets a game 1. Yeah, he definitely can't have it again thanks to the vault bans, and I think the Butt Lovers are incredibly happy about vault bans. Karmic goes in aggressive. Look at the damage already onto Eats head top.
Yeah, 5-2, 5-0, 3-1, Rat Milk, 4-2 now with a kill onto the Charon, and the Pyromancer goes the way of Hostile Takeover as well, and now, unfortunately, for the titular player, this Yorm is forced to run away, dunk down on Thor, but he's not targeting the Jormungandr just yet. Now it's going to be
level
spin.
15.
Wall, hammer, damage, everything you need, and the kill is there. 3 levels up, 6 and 0.
Isn't he? No way. Okay.
Okay, stays alive. Eats has to play carefully around the camps, honestly. that is dangerous territory, but it's Karmic. The name of the game right now for Hostile Takeover is this solo Thor.
Dude's level 15. He's playing a different game than everybody else. He's doing the Skyrim exploit. He's crouched next to the bear in the tutorial level. Karmic is on a different planet right now, alongside Benny Q, by the way. It isn't just the Thor who's that ahead. The Newt right alongside it. They've been comboing the whole game. Like you said before, the most of the play style is combos and just dominating a fight. There's no world where the Butt Lovers have been able to find... It's not even comfortable. It's not establishing a foothold. They can't play the game. No one's even able to farm. And it's ironic. I brought up before kind of the origins of some of these players and how they did go against each other when they were all learning competitive, and some of them were in college and whatnot. Rat Milk's secret tool to trade back then was he would just let his team fight and he'd farm up. In this game, he's been able to do both. And look at the farm difference in jungle, too. So Eats, who could kind of be the only answer to so many problems, in particular, I think, of the Newt, Eats can't even play either because Eats has no farm from the jungle. It only spirals. Queen Naga's up now. The 1 Gold Fury is already in pocket. Eats will try on Benny, though.
Well, they're going to drop some damage. Minikyu does have some return, but is alone. Still kills off Eats. Doesn't matter. Now the dunk down damage seems to be even better onto Raspy, who eats a tier 2 tower shot too. Oh no, it just goes wrong. It collapses in mid. The damage, and Minikyu stays alive, gets the kills, and they're cleaning up. The team is on the rest of the map too. This Charon has to run away. Inferno already lost their life, and Karmic's hunting for more. Karmic doesn't care about the tower. Karmic's using the hammer just to close the gap because he's got Happen nearby. And despite what it seems like, Eats respawns. That's 4 kills for none.
I don't know what's worse. The minions unloading their Gatling guns in the mid lane on the poor Raspy at 2 HP. Check the minions' PayPal. Or the fact that Karmic just walks at you menacingly in duo and lets Happen finish the deal. Chains on Inferno. That Jingwei has nowhere to go. Finally gets out of it. Look at the damage mid.
Yeah, Raspy just, there's nowhere to live there. This is a team that just absolutely opened up a can of worms, and Hostile Takeover have no intent on putting the lid back down. It is damning. I mean, there's the line of scrimmage is at your Phoenix line if you're butt lovers. You cannot walk forward. This part of the
been
jungle
level 12 for 5 minutes.
is not even your. Oh my God, you're right. Eats has not been able to find any farm. 4 levels back on Rat Milk. This might be the only time you can get some farm, and even then you have to be careful about it. Fire Giant is very easily in the conversation for Hostile Takeover. They're just finding kills left and right. Eats might not be in a good spot. This is going to look really good for Minikyu, though, if it goes the way he wants. Luckily, you pull the beads. Unfortunately for Eats, that means you no longer have beads, and Rat Milk is 3/4 of the way back to having his ult.
And an entire, I mean, kind of an item and a half behind in jungle. That's the scariest thing, right? The levels are one thing, and they're horrifying. Eats finally found a camp to farm in the jungle. But itemization-wise, it's just a nothing burger. One of the things that makes Asano so good is once those items get online and your scaling begins to take effect, and it's just not there. And again, I don't want to seem like I'm focusing in on Eats because nothing is going well. Inferno is nowhere near getting to the level of Jingwei that the butt lovers would require to get back in this game. Raspy has been, I mean, not a non-factor, as it's some of the most damage coming from the butt lovers, but the ability to stay alive has simply not been there for the Agni. And thankfully not in this trap, but you can go in this trap of, well, maybe I have to spend some gold into survivability, buy a Blinking Abyss, maybe even get a Team Beads, and switch your Relic to an Aegis to double it up or something to that effect. Get yourself a Time Lock Aegis. But if you do that, you're pushing your damage further and further behind and spending a lot of gold to do it. So there's just so many ridiculous hurdles that the butt lovers have to climb over, and that's all without even looking at the big picture of the uh-oh territory and looking at the 1v1 on Eats, who might fall down. But Karmic, not feeling that ambitious. Oh, mid!
Oh! Goes and does get the stun, but doesn't get the damage. And realistically, it's just because I think... I 100% think that if Karmic had the backup of the team there, that's a dive under the Phoenix, no doubt. But the rest of the team is, you know, doing the objective. The Fire Giant, we talked about the fact that they had been able to ignore up to this point. And so far, Karmic does not seem to be too worried. In fact, has Rat Milk here, and they get rid of Raspy, but lose the Daji in the process. So you go 1 for 1, which heavily favors the Order Squad. And it might favor him a little bit more, but the Fire Giant's still alive on 4, and now you got the rest of the crew coming in. And I like the idea for butt lovers to fall back to the base and stay alive as long and as well as they can. Karmic taking a lot of damage from the Daji. Look, it's still a Daji. Not a Daji, a Jingwei. Couple items in, the damage is going to be there. You have to play carefully. Yorm forced into the ult. Little bit of poke. Maybe even an opportunity to re-aggress, but it's Karmic up in the sky who's going to be looking instead for the opportunity. Dunk down, forces Eats to use the beads, pulls that CC immunity out, pulls the damage in, and pulls the life down into the ground with the help of Tegvir. Aggression around the gate and around the Phoenix, but it's still a 2v4 right now, and I think they're starting to recognize that and fall back.
I think a lot of what just went down comes back to an important thing that you mentioned very correctly at the very beginning. Rat Milk dying was so big for butt lovers. I think if Rat Milk lives, there's a world where we're looking at the end of the game just outright, because you're able to fight as 5. You probably can get a deicide fairly easily, but without Rat Milk there, you have a lot of that kind of displacement, not necessarily in the literal sense, but what it does to your kind of how your team lines up, right? How you're lining up in formation. With it, Rat Milk not there, you're able to play a little more loose. The Jing Wei can step up more. A lot of CCN happen, but plenty tanky. But Benny being here with Tegvir, Gore, I'm sniffing out a fight that could be there. Problem is, I don't feel like the butt lovers want a fight deep in the jungle right now, but Thor's up.
Looking for the opportunity. Raspy not being under the tower could be a prime target, but instead, it's going to be down onto the Yorm, forcing the ult, again, out of the titular player himself, and forces everyone to fall back. The Yorm is taking a lot of damage in the process. It should be a pickup for Benny Q. Good damage from the ultimate, and now the tick damage is what you're waiting on to see if it can happen for them. Happen himself actually leading the way as the team gets aggressive. Powwow pulled out, looking for 2 chains, trying to pull anybody and everybody in, but instead just has the follow-up damage. And oh my god, the burn! Raspy just deleted, but it's going to be paid for. No, it's not. The survivability and the reset. That's what you need if you are Hostile Takeover. And now you've got the full team squad up on the left side for the Phoenix.
Hostile Takeover can get this easy. If you pick Butt Lover, it's basically GG. Inferno has some damage for this, but it's not looking great. Biggest thing is, Hostile Takeover, their health bars are low. They've got to back up a bit. Jing Wei might even go on the chase. No, has to play it safe.
Yeah, Fire Giant regen only does so much. Karmic going up to the sky. Might just come back down, though, with assistance from the team. No, falls back and plays it safe, but it doesn't matter. They still get 1 kill, and that might be the opener for the team to come back in. You need a reset. At least Karmic is going for it. And it seems like, despite nobody wanting to, it felt like all 5 of them were on the verge of going back in. They will instead fall back. Maybe it ends up just being a bait. The Yormal on cooldown every single time, 0-4-1, an unfortunate spot to be in because this has just been non-stop CC City. And it seems like that is going to be something that Raspy learns the hard way over here. The Agni gets taken down, picked off by himself.
This is kind of the worst case scenario for the Butt Lovers, to say the least. They're going to have 4 alive for the defense, but the defense will kind of be in shambles. A lot of ultimates on cooldown. The fight starts early. Inferno's almost dead.
You trade out support for support, but you're going to lose a little bit more because Inferno, like you said, almost dead, now actually dead. But you traded out duo for duo. Eats goes down, though, and that might be
4 for 3.
The final opener. Up into the sky goes Karmic, and they're just looking for a little bit more. Going instead for the Phoenix. I admire it, but has the hammer, has the wall, needs to save Benny Q's life, but can't get it in time, and that's a huge kill for Butt Lover. 3 in this fight from 0-4 to 3-4, and keeps it going. 42 kills on the board, 24 minutes into the game. Mid-Phoenix will stay standing as Karmic, last one alive on Hostile Takeover, finally falls back and gives me a moment to catch my breath.
Yeah, you've earned it on this one, and it will be a moment before Hostile Takeover rush back into the base.
Literally.
One thing that they're not going to do, I feel pretty confident saying, is they're not going to rush right back to the Phoenix, not make that mistake. They might put some pressure mid-Phoenix while they wait for Fire Giant to respawn, but the Gold Fury just turned over to Ancient Fury. Fire Giant will respawn soon. You see no wards on the map for the most part. Hostile Takeover doesn't have any in pocket, but I'd imagine at some point we'll see it back there, establish some vision and some presence at the fire. You can definitely work for some splits there too, because it's hard for the Butt Lovers to fight in, because they still are trying to farm, by the way. They're still looking to finish off some of their earliest items. Meanwhile, Hostile Takeover, some of them are approaching late game finished builds. Eats, and I feel bad calling attention to it, Eats 4 levels down on Rat Milk, whose eyes on to the Charon. Karmic 2!
Double dunk, double spin, and now the follow-up hammer damage is good. Good peel so far from Charon to keep things pushed back. There's only so much you can do right now. The objective is survive. They are playing the final mission of Halo Reach. Just keep alive long enough to turn something around. Trying to overcome a massive gold deficit, massive experience deficit, as you have mentioned. And a little bit more, if this Fire Giant goes the way of Hostile Takeover, might be the territory. And I can ask you this, if it is the territory. Pyromancer, I don't know if you fight for it, though they are stepping up. Fire Giant, at this point, with this state of the game, it feels like you almost have to be present for it. If you're
I feel like it's a you have to be present for it, but it's also a why not at this point. Hang on, there's the CC, the combos are there again!
And the damage is just too much. Jungle support gone, and they try to and successfully burn Rat Milk in response, but it's cost them damn near everything. All it takes now is the Yorm to come back out, and once he's locked down,
We're worm hunting, baby.
at the deicide. One Phoenix about to respawn, but with no one left to defend for 20 uncontested seconds. A full deicide, and the run into the Titan room. Karmic already going in to try and get it done. Has the minions to maybe work with. Or needs some help from somebody. Weakened Phoenix will be the target. As they come to set this up, I'm like, they need to open it up for damage. They will. Eats respawns, though. And that might be enough to thwart the
got a little
Titan.
messy.
A little rough. Maybe not on the same page. Maybe misreading the map. And they might even lose Karmic in the process. Hammer, teleport, and a wall separates Karmic from their first step. 12-0-13. My God, I haven't looked down a little bit.
So I was just going to say, if Eats had managed to kill the 12-0 Thor, we might have seen that dude jump from level 16 to 20. Like, the amount of shutdown reward that would have been there for poor Eats would have been eaten good. But what's crazy, so Hostile Takeover had left Phoenix low and after it respawned. They had wave pressure, as you could see, because there was already the fire minions there. I think Benny thought the rest of the team was going to go straight to the left Phoenix, so he tried to dash through mid to wait in the throne room on Titan. But maybe the rest of the team thought it would be the inverse, where Benny would go make sure the left Phoenix died, and that's how it got messy. Ultimately, not the worst thing, obviously. You're still up 5 strong. This Fire Giant should be mostly free. Fun items for Happen. He's having fun. This is where you end. You get this, you group up, you go for it, you have your way in, you have pushers coming from left and right. Left the most important, obviously, in this instant. Karmic's going up, looking like Karmic's calling game.
Yeah, I mean, it might be the target. Raspy was not the target. Instead, it's over here on the left, and it's Inferno. Poor Inferno, who has not gotten to play this game. 0-5-3 on the Jingwei. But they do have Karmic locked down, and they do finally shut down this Thor. But again, at what cost? You have your team. Full Fire Giant actually playing a little slower overall. Maybe
Double
because
ADC
Karmic has been
solo.
leading the way. Like you said, double ADC solo. They have the ability to push. They take a lot of damage, though, on Benny Q, who goes up into the sky. Now you have to turn this around. The damage is good. The shell is okay. But can you escape the Jormungandr, who's chasing you down? You get rid of Eats in the process. You have the double ADC burning through the tank, who wanted to kill off your mid laner, and instead you are picking them up one by one. And like you said, triple for one. Rat Milk removed from the equation, but you still got taken out. Oh my God, finally! Inferno! He hadn't been able to do anything this game, and finally is able to get the kill and get something on the board and maybe save this game. At least for a little bit.
Tekvir couldn't dagger because of the knockup from the wind gust. So Tekvir thought, and I thought too, by the way, that this was going to be the easiest highlight reel dagger into Penta. But one simple little wind gust. And remember, Tekvir chose to go Aegis, not beads. So there was nothing the Medusa could do. Now the 2v2, and it's looking good to be Inferno. Benny dead.
And now the chase is on. You should be able to dunk somebody here. Speaking of dunk, Karmic comes in and is looking to turn this around to shut down Inferno. But Inferno is looking to do to them what they were hoping to take down onto this Jingwei. The stun is going to make you fall back. And that is an absolutely insane run of events. What was and felt like a surefire over game in favor of Hostile Takeover. I'm not going to call it even, by any means, because there is still 13,000 gold separating these, and you can see it in the items. But experience, that 16 to 20 gap between Eats and Rat Milk has been closed up, and sure enough, soon we will be seeing a level 20 Susano, level 20s across the board in the game. And that will even out a lot more than really would meet the eye.
The biggest issue still for butt lovers is the itemization that's online, because while usually the later you get in a game, you'll hear a lot of commentators and pro players say that gold starts to matter less. And while that's true, the kind of exception is when one of the teams is still yet to complete builds, because you can see Hostile Takeovers finishing a lot of final items. Oath Sworn coming online. Karmic gets the wall, but can't set up too much yet. Karmic might be in trouble.
I mean, you're playing maybe too aggressively right now. Karmic has gone in several times, but they get rid of Inferno, and that was the problem, child. So now without Inferno around, they'll see what else they can knock down. They've got low health bar forced down, and the Charon is going to be able to hop into the boat and get away, but not far enough. Benny Hugh from the top ropes drops that one down and gets the damage. But the Phoenix is a respawn, so you have something else to worry about now. The Palau comes out, forces some beads and CC immunity. Raspy is taking a ton of damage. Karmic is just a one-man army, but will be taken down for the second time this game while the team focuses on the mid Phoenix. 3v4. Fire Giant on 1 for 20 seconds, so take with that what you will. Jormungandr goes in to create some separation. I mean, it is the question, how confident are you feeling right now to get this Phoenix? Should be pretty good because it's, you know, not doing anything on its own after that Fury. But it is a fall back without Karmic here, not playing too aggressive. And we're in for more. 32 minutes in, and the game keeps marching.
So with EFG being kind of the next topic, we have a little bit till Fire. Fire's off everything. The gold charts are in hell for butt lovers fans everywhere. T-shirts are coming off. They're being switched to hostile takeover fandom.
Added to the Smite Prime store.
Shirts are out. My name is John Smite Prime, and I love butts. I can see Jithan's wearing the T-shirt now. I feel like your biggest play here, if you're, I mean, obviously you're going to Hail Mary because kind of what other choice do you have? The key is not letting hostile takeover start the fight on their terms. You almost kind of want to make them start the fire and then take the fight there on your own terms, at least, so you can dictate how it starts, because every fight is the Karmic show, but getting things off. I almost would love a team in tier, a team attempt to throw the ball all the way down the field. Instead, Karmic could be caught.
You've got ults in a good position. Like you said, Karmic could be caught alone on the side. Might also realistically be controlling things, considering what we've seen from Karmic. But what was 12-0 and 13 has turned into 12-2 and 15, so not too much.
I found out who was
over
caught.
The last few minutes. But there's going to be the Yorm. Finally burned down. It took a little while, and now it's Eats. It's domino effect overall. Raspy in a little bit of trouble. Karmic trying to create these moments for the team, and with a little bit of help should be able to keep them going. Finds Inferno, and it's Raspy. Last man standing. Not much to say about it. Who needs the enhanced Fire Giant? You got rid of 2 Phoenixes already, and now you just need someone who can take the brunt of the damage. Marching forward, low health bars, 34 minutes into the game with 47 kills under their belt, taking game 1. It's Hostile Takeover.
Hostile Takeover really knew how they wanted to play this game from the get-go, from the draft, right? They got, even though I still stand by butt lovers having a great draft and taking away things that they felt like they could just control instead of give it away for free. Hostile Takeover didn't really care. They got to play the exact game they wanted. They got Benny on the Newt, which, I mean, seems obvious was the goal. Thank goodness for butt lovers, it's gone now, thanks to Vault Bans. But they got the Thor, and I loved how they played around the Thor for the majority of the game. It did kind of fall off by the end. I think a lot of that was, I hate to say Karmic kind of taking his foot off the gas, but I don't think he was trying to get the perfect score on drifts around the corner anymore, you know? He was in late game mode, he was on autopilot a little bit. But when they needed to lock in, of course, Hostile Takeover did. And kind of throughout the game, it was the same story, where Karmic would get these early rotations that we expected to see being on the Thor and being able to play that way. The rest of the team balanced around it. Whatever attention Karmic would draw, we would just kill it elsewhere if we're Hostile Takeover. That's our play. And it worked. At the end of the game, butt lovers were able to find a lot of ways back in. Inferno played pretty well against the rope. Same thing for the Charon. There was that big triple kill for butt lover on the defense that kept the game alive the first time. And I think that was massive, of course. But the biggest problem to me is ultimately the game got too out of hand to be able to ever stand on equal footing. Even when you did, when you killed everybody, when you had deicides, when Inferno made their hero play, got the dagger away from Tegvir, you still were not on even footing. And that's how Hostile Takeover took over game 1.
It did take some time, though. I think the biggest thing outside of the very opening, it was very similar to a game we saw earlier where you know, Butt Lovers get a couple kills, start things up pretty darn good against hostile takeovers, but eventually it came down to those Phoenix defenses. That's where they were holding on to, and like you said, maybe a little bit of, I'm going to call them goofy dives, right? Some choices that came out from whether it was Karmic or any of these teams going, any of the players, I should say, going a little too deep, and Inferno just smacking them with a ton of damage, but there is eventually a breaking point, and that lead and the play from hostile takeover is enough to get them there. Of course, 12-2 and 19, very easy to look at for Karmic, but 13-3 and 10, 12-4 and 18. It seems like there was a very big core in the middle that was causing a lot of trouble. Rat Milk with 12 assists, 9 kills, and of course the 21 assists that Happen was able to put up. The team was just playing together. They were playing well. 0 wards from Tegvir, which is impressive. And then again, you only got 1 coming from the other side on the Susanoo. So realistically, I guess there's balance in the world somewhere in that. It just shows, though, how good this team is, and maybe shows a little bit from Butt Lovers in that they are able to dig their heels in and push back for so long. That game ends around 34 minutes when it felt like it was going to end at 23. So the fact that it ends up going, another 12 or 11 is really, really impressive from them. We'll have to see what they do, like you said, with vault bans and a lot more to talk about on the other end of this quick break. Welcome back, everyone, to the finals here in week 2 of the June circuit of Smite Prime. My name is Gormizer. That's not my legal name. That's not what's on my documentation, but that's what you know me as, and that's what matters. I've got Malum here, who's gonna keep a straight face with me as we continue to talk very professionally about the team's hostile
we'll get to that later.
Takeovers, hostile takeover, and of course professionally about the other team, Butt Lovers, that they are playing. And for now, we can talk about the vault bans. So once a god is played in the set, they are no longer played. As an example, Benny Q just played Newt. Newt can no longer be picked. They are gone from the game. All 10 gods from the last match, or from the last game, are officially out. And so you've got 6 bans, plus technically 10 in that those are gone, and then you pick whatever's left. That's good for your squad to keep on moving. Malum, it was a game that was controlled mostly by hostile takeover. A good last defense several times from Butt Lovers, but eventually it just... Where and why? I gotta ask before we're gonna get into picks and bans here. While they start banning things, I can ask where and why.
It's a little guy. But
the more you show it, the less...
My sister-in-law got it for me. First of all, he's squishy.
So it's like a little stress... for when you hate little guys, you can just...
His head dangles. But most importantly, he makes me think of the Butt Lovers.
Actual babies' heads can't be supported.
Yeah, this is basically their mascot. But, last game had me stressing. I was breaking him apart. I figured he could at least join for the cast.
What I like is that because you have the blur for your background, that there's a certain point. It just
I know.
Yeah, not just vanishes, but like it's like proper censorship to make sure.
There we go.
Picks and bans, game 2 here. Hostile takeover, still on the second pick side. Butt Lovers with the first pick. Ban out the Ardio up front. Their little mascot hanging out with Malum. And you can see down there the vault bans. Agni, Cerberus, Jingwei, Thor, Yorm, Newt, Susanoo, Medusa, Charon, and Daji all off the board as well. So 16 gods that are going to be missing from this game at minimum. We'll have to see where they go. Aladdin gets banned. I don't imagine, if they were good enough to ban in the first game when everybody was already available, I don't imagine the bans change too much in game 2.
I do like the Hou-Yi, especially because I feel like ADC is going to be pretty interesting this game. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Neath get a lot of priority. Aside from the Neath, I wonder where we go. I feel like Izanami's been seeing some play that's not completely out of the table. Could be a little bit on the sneaky. And on her is always somebody I feel like players love to grab in game 2s of vault bans. If you think of it early, you're like, oh, I can take it, look for some 1v1s, try to get some pressure out in duo. It's interesting how much has been taken off the table. One big thing, too, for junglers one big thing for the junglers is Eats is still not new to playing competitive Smite, but newer to being kind of full focus Smite Prime. As one of the best characters in the game right now, Aphrodite, first lock in, a little bit frightening for the side of Hostile Takeover. But for Eats, I think the jungle pickup is big, because Ratmilk has a very strong god pool, but I don't think it's as deep as some of the other top junglers. It's kind of always been an interesting aspect of Ratmilk's game. The Hoon bots is significantly good for Ratmilk. There's always been a very nasty Thanatos. The Aladdin was banned by Hostile Takeover, and while there's still plenty of options, it just makes me wonder the direction we choose to go. And that I find surprising. The Awil is just not something that I've seen Ratmilk play a ton. It's definitely in the bag, but not a ton. But going with it is the Neath. That makes a lot of sense in my brain. The aspect Neath right now, you're doing a lot of the same things that most of the good ADCs are wanting to do right now. And Tegvir has already shown today how comfortable he is on it. I'm actually kind of surprised he gets it for free here in game 2. But the Aphrodite just had so much picking power once you committed to banning that Mordred and allowing Hostile Takeover to either ban it or risk you taking it. You kind of had to take it first. You couldn't give it back. The Hostile Takeover for Benny.
And really finding the, I guess, like the appropriate balance, right? Where even if she's good, who's banning Neath? It's 2026. We've been in very few metas where a Neath ban is fully warranted.
Your Neath feelings crack me up because you're so complex. I can never tell if you're like the biggest Neath supporter or like Neath's #1 op. You never like, fully reveal your hand.
A little bit of both. I feel like you gotta have a little bit of both. I think she's one of those gods that deserves a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Apollo, Osiris, the second time we get to see Osiris, but Apollo, who I will admit, the last time I got to see him a couple weeks ago when I was watching and we were casting, did not quite hit the way maybe that you would hope from an Apollo, but good rotations with an Aphrodite beside him. You know, you can have some good expectations. It's kind of a TBD pick, but more importantly, his dash doesn't trigger a Wheelish, which is probably one of the bigger deals, and it's answered with a Horus and a Chalk.
So the Horus is exciting because Horus we've known is so good. I love the answer to the Apollo too, with the ability to traverse so much of the map. A lot of times Apollo ultimate, I feel like, is utilized in a way that Horus ult could be an answer to, because I know we see a lot of split pushing and go across the map, but there is a world where, you know, you're split pushing a tier 2, Horus and his team are kind of maybe in mid lane or closer to fire. They can probably get to you even if you are in duo and make a play, or if they're chasing you out and you decide to Apollo ult, say you have some ward coverage, they could just go where you're thinking of. They could go right to an objective and pull it knowing you've already committed your ult early. So there's a lot of counterplay in a very unique sense to the Apollo. And to your point, Apollo can be weird right now. He's in a really good spot in the meta, but if you kind of fall behind in the lane a little too much early, you can't do the Apollo things he wants to do, it's trouble. I do like him into Neath, though. And one of the reasons being, we saw in the last game that Tegvir and Inferno are going to box. They're going to fight. Not a lot of ADCs at this level of play like to really fight in lane. You know, they just kind of play for farm, play for late. Apollo, when he dashes through the wave, can build his Audacity passive. His clear is one of the best right now because you can get to lane, use Audacity, clear the wave pretty fast, and then fight. On that second wave, you can combine using your passive, clearing the wave, then dash through and really bring the fight to the Neath, especially if you can catch her a bit ahead and catch her dash. And I feel like that could be not just for that particular time frame of the game, but that could be something we see a lot of from Inferno, trying to fight into the Neath, not letting her cast her ultimate for free, or just letting her get that farm online. Because remember, she's going to build slow. We're going to build Transcendence. It's going to take a while to get into it because we have our attack speed from our passive. But Apollo has a good answer for that. It's going to take a while before the Neath is super built up, and he can just gotta fight her the whole time.
The way that these teams have been playing, it does give me some concern. I feel like Apollo, well, he's survivable, but we kind of said the same thing about the Yorm last game, and we saw how that went, right? I feel like the aggression from Hostile Takeover is something that is worth being worried about, but I'm almost worried that they're too aggressive, if that makes any sense. Like, a Wheelish wants to go in, Horus wants to go in. If you go in and you don't have the backup of Neath, who I have another point I want to make about her in a little bit, but it does feel like you could almost overcommit pretty. Yeah, I could tell. Hey, as someone who has had to play a lot with and watch over a lot of Neath gameplay, I know a lot about that god that maybe some against my will, which actually does bring me the not just capabilities of being maybe too aggressive, but the other balancing point of it, which is this could still be a Neath that like you could pivot her mid pretty easily. Like as far as her kit goes, she's a physical mage most of the time. Like a lot of what you care about usually is her abilities, not her autos. You can still build the autos, you can still kind of lean into that, but like that the style of gameplay matches a lot of what like mid laners want. Then again, Benny Q also like weird picks. Maybe this chalk is his. Who knows?
Yeah. That's always a potential. I noticed there's two picks that I'm thinking of for Benny, because obviously you need that magical damage in mid in this moment. I would be surprised if it's Chalk for the reason of the 4 physical here, plus Karmic and Chalk. That is a character Karmic really likes to play, and a character that, weird enough, Karmic kind of plays similar to characters that have more mobility. Karmic loves rotating early on Chalk. There's a lot of characters where Karmic parks it. Chalk is not one of those. Him and Cherry were the two innovators of the Helm of Darkness tech back in the olden days of Smite 2, and he still kind of plays Chalk similar. But where I think Benny could go is there's 2 picks I'm thinking of. You know, there's always a world he could pick a third pick that's not on the top of my brain. The Hecate and the Cabrakan both are really, really strong in mid, and Benny loves those picks. I think that is kind of a key. Cabrakan just brings so much damage. It's kind of ridiculous how much damage he brings in the mid lane, and Benny's been slamming it nonstop. I also think there's a world Hostile Takeover are feeling themselves after game 1. Cabrakan feels like a really good I'm feeling myself character, where Hecate is more of a alright, fine, we'll win the game kind of lock-in for Benny Q. I guess maybe a third option, I would look at something like a Merlin, potentially. Merlin, another character who's in a surprisingly good, clean spot, and could fill the need of Hostile Takeover of just a lot of magic damage being dumped onto butt lovers. On the other side, though, picking your jungle this late is a little interesting to me from butt lovers. It's nice because the Uelish being first picked allows you some freedom of not picking yourself a counter matchup. It does eliminate picks like a Hoonbots or things like that you just don't want to torture yourself with. But Eats has a god pool, and I mentioned this before. It's very... I remember it being very hyper carry focused. I'm sure that's changed as the years have gone on. I haven't cast Eats in a long time. But it makes me wonder what we grab, because something like the Kali could be great, not going to feel good into a Wheelish. Something like the Thanatos, Thana can always murk a lobby, but he doesn't always win a game, and you kind of have to win this. Especially given the situation with Hydrogen Bomb. You don't know when the next time you're going to find yourself in a finals is if you're butt lovers.
Yeah, having to find a, like you said, full reset moment where you do have to hunker down, right? You said these picks are very important. This is game 2 of a best of 3 finals between the two. As you can see down right below us, you see the Vault band. So those gods unable to be played right now, along with the 6 bands on the side, which does take off quite a few notable junglers, but one that we've been seeing a lot of, well, that's not where I was going to go. They lock in something completely different. I was going to talk about the fact that Tsukiyomi has been on the board and has been talked about and played a lot, but who cares about him? We got Fenrir and Anubis, a double dog squad.
Yippee-yi-yo!
And
let the dogs out.
They so far they've only let the one dog out. Where it's
I
a
swear
TBD.
If they don't lock it in and it's egg
if
on my
it's
face,
not a
I'm
pluralized
pissed.
dogs.
Jeff,
Man, if only
tell them
Cerberus
to
had
lock
still
it
been
in.
available.
Don't give them a choice.
We could have had multiple. Yeah, this is actually the one time that the admin comes in and tells you, no, you've got to play it now. I'm curious to see where they go with this, though. I'm with you on some of the mid picks you had mentioned for Hostile Takeover, because like you need a lot of magic damage and some of that coming out from your squad that is otherwise 4 physical and feeling maybe a little rough because of it. But it does feel like one of the other things you need is someone who can easily apply some anti-heal. I think that's like one of the biggest things. Like if you can try to deal with, admittedly, it doesn't have to be any form of anti-heal. It could also just be the ability to just burst an Aphrodite. Like if you have that, if you can find someone who does that, that also works. But just somebody to help deal with the healing factor that is going to be coming from the other side. Admittedly, a squishy team as well, so maybe that burst factor is not completely out of the way to think about.
Cabrakan would be a hilarious pick into the Anubis, by the way. Just hilarious. But maybe the Hecate. I kind of had a feeling, but the idea of Benny Q's Cabrakan running down the Anubis all game and doing 1,000,000 damage, a little bit tougher, obviously, to play into the Anubis because you kind of have to walk at the Anubis. If a wrap hits, you're cooked. If you can't get your stun quick enough, you're cooked. So I understand it if not. The Hecate in particular is great, but instead, ooh,
wow,
the Alpoish pivot. I kind of forgot he was available. He's been banned so much since he's come out, whether it was competitively or if he was not competitively banned just by the teams. The fact he could fall to last pick feels like an oopsie on everybody, especially Gore, especially because we have now picked Aphrodite and been countered by an Alpoish. So,
yeah.
The Aphrodite doesn't get to play the video game, and anyone who Aphrodite chooses to kiss doesn't get to play the game. You may as well not use your 3. Just leave the Lovebirds at home. Like, we're good on the Lovebirds. We have an Alpoish. We're already dead.
And worth mentioning, on top of that, while the team healing, I think, exists from Butt Lovers because of the Aphrodite, although, like you said, maybe TBD when Alpoish gets his way. But
yeah.
Chalk, Horus, Neath all have their own form of self-sustain. Alpoish has a form of self-sustain, although it might not be the one that you really write home about. Like, it does feel like this is a squad that Hostile Takeover, they might not be relying on a healer, but they do have a lot of healing. So I imagine that this is going to be a matchup where, again, damage, burst, the ability to get rid of somebody as quick as possible is huge. And then we start to draw size of ultimates, which always has to come down to it, right? Fenrir, single target. Anubis, if they line up for you, it can be multiple targets, but really it's only going to be one. Osiris can kind of hit multiple, but it's small. Same for Apollo. And Aphrodite's is a get-out-of-jail-free card. Meanwhile, I see single target ultimate, but team fight, right? It feels like the frontline and mage from Hostile Takeover are going to be grouping together incredibly well when we start to see them finally arrive at that after level 5. We'll have to find out, though, as we finally jump into it. Game 2 of the finals here, Butt Lovers and Hostile Takeover. Who will come out on top and who will win this match? Well, it's time for them to duke it out and figure it all out right here, right now. And once again, much like last game, Butt Lovers will be fighting from the bottom to the top on the left side of the UI, and they aren't looking for any funny business as of right now. They're just going to be taking everything as it comes to them. Specifically going for just generic camps, no crazy starts, no hyper-aggression from anybody.
So, one of the worst parts about Alpoish right now, to play against it, not only does the anti-heal on his third ability just kill you, the amount of things in Smite 2 that heal, and this was a conversation I was having with shoutout Kerberos Musi, the amount of things that heal in Smite 2 is kind of insane. Health, the 300 gold health pots are always ticking. Everyone buys them. They're ticking throughout the entire game. Everything's got random little bits of lifesteal. There's a bunch of items in the game that have little procs of heal. You talked about it for characters. Fenrir has got it in some ways. Anubis has got it in some ways. Obviously, the Aphrodite, when the Lovebirds heal, it's going to be a factor. Alpoish just gets to stun everybody, do bonus damage to everybody throughout this game. It can really become just a nightmare to play into. And I think especially the later we go. And you talked about the sustain. That's going to hurt extra bad. Because Alpoish can sustain himself through so much that usually where an Anubis pokes somebody out and buys time for his jungler, Alpoish says, that's cool. Watch me eat this minion. Watch me eat this minion. Watch me eat this minion.
And hey, this other minion? Also that one too. I actually think that, speaking of the minions, not just consuming them if you're Alpoish to be able to sustain your own life, but the other big portion of this is a lot of abilities that are left on the ground. Like, this is not something that gets really thought about too often because there's not really too much reason to mention it, but between the weaves that a Neath is leaving behind and the corpses that are going to be dropped by Benny Q, there's a lot of, hey, this small ability is now a big AoE and suddenly we're all taking damage that we didn't expect. That can happen and kind of get muddled because there could be so many of them at any point kind of across the map. That is actually going to be, like, in the middle of a team fight, I imagine, not something you actively think about, but something that could bite you if it's not avoided.
Bite you. Fenrir. Huh.
Ha, Fenrir.
It's why you're big famous caster Gormizer.
That's, well, never mind. I can't say that's why they pay me the big bucks anymore. Instead, we're going to watch them get aggressive over on the right-hand side, and luckily for Butt Lover, this time it goes a little different than last time. Might not be the same for the duo lane. The shell, like you said, balances it all out, keeps things about as stable as they could be for the Aphrodite and the rest of the squad. It's going to be a Wheelish jumping in over on the right-hand side. That shell gets deleted immediately, and it's first blood over the way of Rat Milk, and now looking for a little bit more. Eats is low. Karmic is as well. And I think now with the vision of the Anubis coming over, they're going to play that one safe and careful. Well, okay, I should say safe, maybe not careful, because Karmic plays to the axe, uses some of that self-sustain. In fact, Rat Milk goes back in. Rat Milk is almost able to and does get another kill, but trades out their life for it in the process. But still, a 2-1 slash line. Great start for the jungler.
Yeah, you're very okay with that. Giving Rat Milk the 2 is big. Also, the rotation out from the Anubis is just one of those things that's tough. The Apwash doesn't really want to rotate in that instance. You don't want to trek all the way over there. Benny hadn't hit level 5 yet, and then get there and put yourself further behind. But now level 6 tied up with it. You have your Wheelish with 2 kills. You can just put the pressure on the Anubis while the ultimate's down. Because sure, there's a beads up, but Raspi's probably going to try to beads a little bit early, if not, or excuse me, try not to beads too early, and instead try to hang on to it, be a little bit greedy with it to try to save it for the Wheelish Gravity Surge. In that case, you can put a lot of pressure on this Anubis now. Your ult's down? All right, get ready to begin a Wheelish hell, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of bully central right now, I think, for Rat Milk. Although Karmic might be the one in trouble. Ult used and then picked up by the Fenrir. Not going to make it too far after that, as it is another kill pulled back by Butt Lovers, and specifically there for Eats. Eats, who, I mean, you're going to have to take the lump here, which fell super far behind. I mean, we were talking 4 or 5 level differences at some points in the game last time around. And so far, keeping a good pace. Good to get a kill there. Good root coming out from Tegvir, who's fighting back. Good damage and good backup coming in from Rat Milk. Is able to help at least get one. Might be able to find another because Apollo is off the mark. Survival is the name of the game, and Hostile Takeover are winning it. They not only stay alive, but get kills and pick up 2 against the duo lane of Butt Lovers.
I think the sleep paralysis demon for the Butt Lovers of Rat Milk is coming alive. 3 kills already, all into the pocket of one of the scariest junglers to get ahead early on. Butt Lover taking the fight to the Apwash, but Karmic is here in the rotation.
They have damage. Chase is good. Eats, follows. And that lockup is solid. Butt Lover incredibly low, but no, they're not able to get the last hit. Oh my god, I thought that was a fire kill. But instead, it's Rat Milk burned down by Raspy. And a good set. Farm is going to be the name of the game afterward, which we wanted to see from Butt Lovers. And with a couple of kills, they tie it up 4-4, 6 minutes in. The gold stays even as we come out as a wash.
It's funny that Raspy is kind of becoming Rat Milk's keeper, as there's a lot of focus on the Afro. You see the backflip from the Neath, looking to get closer, but Lovebirds will tick, and the Neath will be all right for now. But that's kind of the thing about this dual lane. It's going to be scary, too. The Aphrodite is having a tough time, and I noticed the Chronos Pendant early, and we're also going Sands of Time. What's funny to me is that we're running this Aphrodite in support. Aphrodite has a build right now that is just so good. I wonder if we're still going to go it. Maybe we're just starting with the Chronos Pendant. I don't play enough Aphrodite myself to speak to every in and out, but the build that's been going around that involves the Heartward Charm and a lot of stuff like that, going more tanky and kind of abusing cooldowns with it, that can take a minute to get going from support is what I've learned, and it gets going a little bit faster in mid. But all those points aside, Gold Fury pulled first by Butt Lovers. Hostile Takeover? Or, I don't even think they know.
I don't think they're going to be aware until the global sound cue comes out. Even then, they don't have any time to really respond. Not much to do. Really solid play from Butt Lovers to get aggressive early on. And they don't trade anything really out for it in the process. Doesn't mean a massive lead by any means. And realistically, Malum, with where things have been, I anticipate a lot of different fights to break out over the next few minutes that could change the pace of the game on either team. Right now, it seems like the solo lane direction is going in favor of Hostile Takeover, but we'll see, because right now this Osiris is smacking, but not hard enough. Rat Milk is the deciding factor there in saving Karmic and keeping him alive.
We'll see if history repeats. Does Rat Milk go mid lane, then die to an Anubis laser again? No, the laser's already out. It's on Benny Q, and Benny falls. Killing spree for Raspy.
Up into the sky, and maybe looking around for a little bit here. You've got Happen leading the charge. A good knockup, good pull, but a better beads. Beats the punch from Rat Milk and keeps things neutral. Kill onto Benny Q. Traded it out. And a fight in mid might even continue to grow as Happen gets wrapped up there, but it should fall back. And it should be the control kind of resetting. And Butt Lovers taking a commanding decision-making of this game. I wouldn't say lead, but they've been making the calls.
One thing that I've noticed already is I liked the call early to take some pressure off of Butt Lover, who clearly had a hard time last game laning into Karmic and putting the attention there. You do that, you got the kill, but Butt Lover still kind of has ended up on the worst side of things. So we pivot. The Anubis already had a couple of kills online. Let's keep our attention there. Rat Milk always likes to camp Karmic in solo, so it does make a lot of sense to just kind of let that be the case and not overthink it, not stress about it. Focusing the Anubis the way we are, look where it puts us already. About a level and a half lead on Benny Q.
Yeah, very comfortable position to be in. I have to give a shout out to these Osiris ults as well. They've been used every single time to avoid Karmic. And right now, kind of playing the option. Not too much for Karmic to do. Does manage to make it to the axe, though, and find the reset. And now we're in a position, maybe a little pause. I think getting out of control a little faster than Hostile Takeover would have expected. Not necessarily in a things are spiraling way, but in a, oh wow, wait, this is way more resistance than we got last game kind of way. And that change up in Gods has definitely worked out for Butt Lovers. Apollo, I believe, just kind of running around on the map right now, flying around and landing. It's just going to be a small reset. Gold Fury's not up for another few minutes. First one with the way of Butt Lovers. Outside of Fenrir getting aggressive and now maybe eating a little more than he would like. Forced to fall back thanks to the Aphrodite stays alive. It's going to be a quick reset. And another little brief pause for us to maybe look down at the items. Looking specifically at the Relic economy because a lot of beads, Aegis available. Specifically missing from the solo and jungle on the side of Hostile Takeover. Maybe points to where some aggression could be had in the next couple of minutes.
I would love to see that continue. I feel like that's the only criticism I have so far for Butt Lovers, because they played so much better so far in this game too, but I feel like they're slowing down. They obviously put emphasis on their leads, but they're slowing down in doing so. Rotation out from Raspy, looking high, gonna be a fighting duo.
Damage so far is good, but it's going to instead be Raspy, like you said, coming in from behind, causing a little bit of trouble. Tekvir over the wall with a backflip.
Oh, no.
Stays alive. But you got to path a specific
Fenrir.
way, and so far it seems to be working out. But like you said, Fenrir comes into the process, and Eats is looking to feast on this Neath. Instead, it's Inferno. Great kill to pick up for your carry. And of course, the Slapfest over in solo lane. But it's the Gold Fury right now that might be the bigger deal. A lot of damage coming out from Butt Lovers as they burn it down. No Anubis ult to try and finish this. The crypts have been emptied, and it's going to be going back and forth. Happen is the one who gets this Gold Fury, and the damage is there for the follow-up. But can they burn through the Aphrodite's healing at this point in the game? Raspy is low. They need one more hit, and Benny Q is going to be able to seal the deal. Now a leap over the wall is going to be good enough as they divide out and run. Butt Lovers stay alive as best they can, but they lose the objective as Hostile Takeover take over the Gold Fury pit.
Nobody in this lobby needed that kill more than Benny Q for a multitude of reasons. Ragnarok was utilized, but he should be alright. Benny getting that kill onto Raspy is so big. Benny had been really quiet, was having some trouble getting farm online. Apollo ults down into the mid lane, diving the tower, but gets back to the squad. I guess may as well use it aggressively in that instance. But Outposh getting back online, Gore being able to now finish that Soul Reaver on back 2. he gets to be more of an active member, and we already saw it in that previous engagement. But Lovers let the Gold Fury go. Happen got the steal, but letting it go back into empty the crypts. There's been a few different ways that Opwash was changed, but one of the cleanest and most notable in terms of how it feels changes is empty the crypts. Instead of just getting damaged by the bodies as they're coming through the ultimate, you're getting damaged by the ult itself in the space that it fills. So letting it go into that Gold Fury zone and then the Gold Fury being unleashed back towards you was significant for Hostile Takeover. Because I think, honestly, even if Happen hadn't gotten the last hit on gold, Benny was going to steal it with the ultimate anyway because it did get let go of. And that will probably continue as we get to the next objectives and they get bigger and bigger as well. It's just such a... It's almost unmatched in the amount of space it controls and how the damage feels. Fenrir looking left, though, for a bit of a tasty Neath.
Well, it should be. I mean, this is probably one of the most classic, been happening for 14 years matchups. Neath backflip, Fenrir leap, and then, yeah, the brutalize afterward. You have pretty much everything you need from there. If you're Tegveer, you just got to stay alive. And it looks like this time, surprisingly, successfully able to do so. Might lose some of the jungle. Might still lose your life if you back too carefully. And I like this, just running all the way back to the Phoenix line, knowing that Eats could chase you down. Eats is still chasing you down, though.
You called it.
So, having to run back about as far as you can. This is...
Your team.
I mean, it's just one of those places where, as a Fenrir, this is a matchup you should know. This is a matchup you should dominate. This is a matchup that Tegveer has to be aware of. I mean, those beads are probably going to be on cooldown pretty regularly because Eats could just have that presence over on the left-hand side of the map.
The pace of this game is still surprising to me. We talked earlier about just how much arena we've been playing today, I think is the big thing. But in this one in particular, it's just calm. And it doesn't feel too calm before the storm. I say that, which means now it will be. It doesn't feel like either team's in a rush to make fights happen. Everyone on the field right now is comfortable letting the game get late, letting things unfold as they will. I think the biggest key for me still looking across at players after I've already mentioned the Opwash catching back up. Ratmilk is still out farming Eats. There are the kills advantage to the Uelish, but if you look at the map, every time something's going on, like right now in mid, Ratmilk stopped at the back camps, looked for farm, then came over for the rotation. He'll be here for the fight, but then you'll see afterwards he'll separate back out into the jungle and say, okay, what's next? Queen Naga, cool, let's go to it. I think that could be a big difference. I think that will be a deciding factor, is that Ratmilk will be able to get so ahead in farm that the rest of Butt Lovers will have a hard time competing into the Uelish.
Yeah, the 2 kills on the Uelish right now have kind of tamped that down, but if you don't keep getting kills on the Uelish to stop... Because literally all that is not, oh, we've killed her, we're getting the experience. That's not what you care about. You've killed her, that's time that she's not farming now. That's literally what you are earning anytime you can take Ratmilk off the map. And like you said, unless there's a moment, right, where you can find those, it is going to continue growing over there. So you have to watch the kind of matchup. How does the Fenrir find that balance? Does Eats stay in this one a little bit more? Because by this time last game, admittedly, there were also like 4 times as many kills on the board. But the levels were out of control on the side of Hostile Takeover. And that's why it took so long for Butt Lovers to even make a defense at that point. Now, though, they're trying to, like you said, play it patiently, play it a little more careful. I mean, you've got a relatively squishy team, not all of which have good escapes. So you have to play careful in that regard. But it does not necessarily mean you have to sacrifice anything that would maybe be more beneficial for your team. You need to be on top of your farm. You need to be going for some of the neutral objectives. That Pyromancer going the way of Hostile Takeover is definitely going to hurt. But balanced out by that last Gold Fury still going to Butt Lovers. It's one of those things, every time one of these teams right now feels like they're starting to pull ahead, the other one finds a way to match them.
Ragnarok out, grabs, brings through, the crypts are emptied, but the only one dead has happened.
Yeah, I mean, that is a blink and you miss it. Raspy does get traded out, so it'll be 1 for 1, and admittedly, support for mid favors Hostile Takeover with the current space, especially if you still get the support after the fact. And that is going to create a whole ton, especially as Tegveer, who's not anywhere near this fight, is split pushing, gets the tier 1, is going to get some decent poke, at least a minion wave under that tier 2. and cause a little bit of trouble. Might get caught out by this Fenrir in the jungle. And that could be a dangerous spot to be in.
Wheelish is here too, though,
behind, but you've got a Wheelish, so it's going to be a 2v2. The classic matchup of carries and junglers, but the low health bar of Tegvir is going to get burned down, and Ratmilk as well. Inferno going absolutely insane with the autos there. Finding, weaving, shooting, killing. Gets it done and brings his team back up. 9 to 8 read the kills, but it's still about 1,500 gold for Hostile Takeover that leads the way. And it's 18 minutes. Again, about as even as you could possibly want.
Yeah, Inferno played that so well, too. Just kind of not being afraid to stand and throw. You would think normally an Apollo would try to reposition, but if Inferno takes the time to reposition there, they probably die in doing so. So to be able to stand and throw like that was a great play. Also, the Fenrir is building in a way that the Neath cannot do anything about. Starting off with the Berserker Shield, then we go into the Nemean after the Oathsworn Spear, so we're just not taking damage from Neath anymore, and even if you do, you simply press your active button, turn on High to the Nemean, and now Neath hates her life and doesn't want to play the game anymore. You might even get her to stop autoing. I love that choice from Eats. You've already committed to making the Neath your priority target. Raspy's been able, for the most part, to kind of free cast until Benny's come online in these more recent fights. I really like the attention there. The only worry I have is, are we planning on sending Butt Lover to focus out Benny Q now? Because Tegvir has an answer, Ratmilk sort of second hand gets an answer due to the same reasons build-wise from the Fenrir if the Fenrir's diving. Apollo has kind of a built-in answer for the Wheelish. If you can, doesn't have beads, but if you can time things well enough, if you can make sure you don't get grabbed by the ultimate, you can fight into an Wheelish pretty well. You talked about it in picks and bans, no knock-up, you can use the Mez well. Is Butt Lover diving Benny Q? Because that might be a key to success for Butt Lovers. But Pyro's up, and the dog's in.
Yeah, Eats goes in for the bite, gets a lot of damage. Happen is the one who ends up getting burned down. Oh, from the Apollo, or not the Apollo, well, also used. But the Anubis is the one that's up and falling down. Tegvir, surprisingly, the first one to lose their life. I thought the damage was going to go the way of Hostile Takeover, but instead, it has been turned around. Ratmilk low, Ratmilk chased, and Ratmilk killed. You've got Benny Q and Karmic, last two standing, but it's a 2v5. They've got to do it all by themselves, and I just don't know if they have it. It's instead an attempt to stay alive and get out. And even though Eats has to reset, you've got healing from the Aphrodite. Could be a call for a Fire Giant. It's right there and waiting. But it is the Pyromancer on the other side, and Karmic and Benny Q keeping just enough presence to make sure that their team will respawn. And that Butt Lovers won't be able to get either of the big objectives on the right-hand side of the map.
The Aphrodite's putting in work. I talked about it earlier, going this cooldown, tanky build. Like I said, I hadn't seen the Chronos Pendant used with it. I think I've mostly only seen it played in slightly lower levels where usually that first item is something a little bit different. I've seen it be Stampede, I've seen it be Prophetic, but I actually really like the Chronos because you're just getting more and more cooldown. Nice attempt, but no good. Pyro goes to Butt Lovers. But the Aphrodite, once she gets that Heartward Charm on, it's not just for the use of it where you activate it, you get a double use of your heal. You would think that's the only use, but the item itself gives, and you'll see it once it's grabbed, the stats it gives, the extra cooldown, like we're feeling great for Aphrodite and we build that item. And so far, I'm surprised the Afro's so free and clear. Free casting, I guess I wouldn't go that far, but how in Gore in every fight we're saying, oh, Tegvir getting focused, Raspy, a lot of damage, he ults, Butt Lover's doing this, Inferno's doing that. Nothing's happening to this Aphrodite. She's just kind of around. But the proof in how useful she's being is there for the sustain that we just saw. This should be countered by Hostile Takeover. They've got to reassess their target evaluation going forward and really make that Aphrodite a priority target, because otherwise they're shooting themselves in the foot.
The enemy team has
Gold Fury, Ratmilk secures that one. 2 for each team now at this point. 2 pips for each team. Again, that might showcase it better than I can eloquently put how even these two have been. Karmic, though, in trouble. Butt Lover chasing him down, and Apollo going up into the sky. Should be an easy dive. Might not even be necessary, but it will be a kill nonetheless. And is the team going to go in? Butt Lover took a lot of damage in the process. Horus comes forward, brings a couple people. The Crypts get dropped down, and the damage seems to be good. But again, it's the Anubis burning through the front line. Happen is absolutely erased by that one. Still alive, but dancing in the back line needs the healing. Ratmilk goes down. It's 2 for 1. It's a heavy investment from Hostile Takeover just to take down the solo laner. and it costs 2 in order to get there.
Benny Q is pumping out numbers, but it's just not enough on his lonesome. Tegvir, a weirdly quiet game from him so far, even to this point. You've got to clean that up. That's where so much of your damage is going to come from. And this was something we talked about too, right? Not only is that Nemean online, and I guess this kind of has almost fallen to the wayside since we talked about it in picks and bans, this is 4 physical for Hostile Takeover, the only magical damage being Benny Q. So the more and more that gets online for the side of butt lovers, like that breastplate of Valor, it's doing so much work for the Aphrodite. It's kind of insane, despite being the main item so far. Same thing with that Dwarven breastplate. It gives butt lovers so many options. When you are diving Benny Q, you can swap it over. Otherwise, you just get to be insanely tanky against everything physical. The builds are a great answer, and Hostile Takeover, they're not out of this game. They're actually leading in gold despite the kills and the tied Gold Fury pips, currently 2-2. I think the key just... I know I said it already, Gore. It's entirely in their target prioritization. I don't think you can target butt lover. He's going to be way too tanky. What you need to do in my brain... Try to get through to the Aphrodite, and if you can't get through to the Aphrodite, not just to kill her, by the way, to get her isolated and be able to actually get some of these benefits you have from your team onto her. I don't think the Alposh has been able to target her. And she also is creating so much space for the Apollo. And in the last fight, you saw that. The whole fight happened in solo. Apollo was standing off to the right of the lane, just firing for free. Hang on, mid lane, Fenrir, he's okay. You can't let that happen. You have to find some way to shrink the breathing room of the butt lovers and make them feel just a little bit more claustrophobic.
Ancient Fury, as you just saw, will now start spawning. Fire Giant is also a threat on the board. It was, that last fight, a very weird amount of focus on butt lover, and I think it was just because they were already half health or a little under when it started, so it was like, oh, well, we'll just get that kill. The Osiris is tanky. The Osiris does not kill. The Osiris is going to fight back every step of the way. Karmic needs a little more help than just focusing the lane mate. And like you said, it needs to be target prioritization of other goals.
Benny has an angle when he gets here.
It seemed like it was going to be a lot. Like you said, Benny could be coming in and making a big difference, but you've already lost Rat Milk. You've lost one of your biggest damage makers. Now, dropping the ult, the Crips are out, and finally they shut down Inferno. They need a little bit more than this. It can't just be the 1-for-1. You need more kills, but you've lost Tegvir. Instead, you might lose a little more. The ult from Raspy comes out and deals the damage. A wrap could be massive here against Karmic. And the follow-up damage is just eating them apart, burning them down one by one. Hostile Takeover. They might have dominated game 1, but they did not show up here so far for game 2. The Deicide comes out, and butt lovers stand on top.
You call out of work, you call into demon time, and the butt lovers figure everything out, Gore. Game 1 was a disaster class, and Game 2 so far is turning into a bit of a masterpiece. Hostile Takeover have kept the gold so close, but they are just outmatched and outgunned in these fights. Fire Giant on the table to contest here, borderline impossible. That maybe there's a world Rat Milk can get close. I'd be shocked to see a steal. You get Fire, you can look to close out this game, but now Rat Milk's here. Fire's 4K, you can't give this away for free.
Lower and lower it gets. And with Rat Milk gone, that seems to be all she wrote. Fire Giant goes the way of butt lovers. 20 kills to 10. Finally leading in gold as well. Even that last fight afterward, that didn't seem like they had taken over. And now it is open for them. The question is, what can they do with it? It is going to be also, what is the late game going to be like? Right now, I feel like we've got some decent damage. I mean, look at it from Opwash. And then it's a massive fall down before you get to see anybody else. The Horus, Malum, I gotta say it today. We've seen the Horus a couple times, and it has not really looked as impressive as I anticipated.
I agree. I feel like a big part of that is, it feels like, I'm not sure if it's just because he hasn't been in the game for a while or what, but his ultimate's just not getting the value we're accustomed to. We can count the times in one hand we've seen it utilized today. And even at that, hasn't looked fantastic when it does. I feel like Hostile Takeover will really need to not just find a way to play around it more, but the Horus has to open some doors for the team. You talked about the damage from Benny Q being fantastic, and it is, but you talked about the fall off. Tegveer and Ratmilk being that low on a damage charge should never, ever happen. And happen could be the key to fixing that. If you can just try to get through, and I mentioned it, but just open up the space for the rest of your team, that could be your answer. The problem is now you're going to be completely on the back foot for the foreseeable future. 3 Gold Furies, so that's 25% damage structures, that's 50 bonus protections when you're near the structures. For Hostile Takeover, that's a nightmare because of how these fights have been playing out. Butt Lovers are able to just dive endlessly, walk at you, they take so much damage, you're unable to really find much CC to open the door for much. And you're feeling the lack of CC from the Chalk, too, as I mentioned that. Because you have, obviously, the Horus CC. The Awelish, the ultimates have slowed down in these last couple of fights. And then after that, what have you got, right? I mean, sure, Chalk's ultimate's awesome. But can Karmic use it if he's dead? Karmic's had to use it as a survivability tool. Butt Lovers are taking advantage of each and every single one of these things. And now as they dive forward, Benny the target, but gets away. Forces the ult, though. Gore with the tier 2 falling. My biggest takeaways, my biggest things to watch for on this siege. Surely we give up tier 2s. Do we even bother taking a fight if Hostile Takeover? Let them take what they want. Only fight if you have to and in your Phoenix zone.
Especially with the tier 2 not really fighting back for you.
No,
Instead,
don't do that.
Take a fight maybe a little too early. They get massively stunned. Luckily, it is thwarted, but it's mostly at the cost of Binicu's ult. A huge team fight tool gone for the time being. And as you said, it keeps the bare minimum alive. You're focusing on your Phoenixes. You're trying to keep that alive as best you can. And Butt Lovers, keep control and keep grip on this game. 29 minutes in. At this point last game, we were seeing Inferno desperately cling to life under the Titan for what was about another 5 minutes. Now, it feels like that's been flipped. Tower count, 3 standing for Butt Lovers. Tier 1 and 2 on the right-hand side of the map. Tier 2 in mid, and that's it. Otherwise, all 3 Phoenixes. And then just the lone Tier 2 duo side for Hostile Takeover, holding on as best as it can. So now the question, as you mentioned, is going to be target prioritization from Hostile Takeover. Target prioritization from Butt Lovers as the Fire Giant wears off. And maybe more importantly, what the next minute is going to look like right before we have these fights. Farm, gold, buying, items, all of that. Really important. And maybe most important is Binicu, the only relic that's down right now, is matching up around the timer the Fire Giant is going to respawn, so that could be very actually massively helpful. But otherwise, it feels like everything's on the board, everything's ready and waiting. It comes down to what you've been kind of cracking into this entire time. What these fights and how these fights break down is maybe the crucial key for who could win this game. Because now, 30 minutes in, it doesn't matter how many towers are up. It doesn't matter if your Phoenixes are up. If you team wipe and let the Fire Giant go the other way, that could be the end.
Karmic in some trouble, but not afraid to step in. Gore, one big thing I want to point out really, really quick, ultimate-wise, right? Watch how Raspy uses ult and follows up. That Anubis ult has been the key to these team fights for Butt Lovers.
I've also been impressed with Inferno's ultimates right now. Karmic, who's been low, burned down finally, but Eats has lost a lot of their life in the process. Here's that Apollo ult I was talking about. Playing aggressive, goes in, but you lose Butt Lover. It's solo for solo. Finally, a trade that Hostile Takeover can take. But it's a lot of ultimates, and like you said, going in, Happen leads the way. Now it's going to be Fenrir turning around, left alone by his team, and Eats is burned down for it. And now everybody's alone. You do lose Ratmilk, so far you're matching 1 for 1. If Tegveer's goes down, it continues, but instead they lose Raspy. They're looking to chase down the Aphrodite. The 3v1 is what you need. A tanky Aphrodite exists and is getting way more damage than should be happening on Debini, but finally goes down, shut down, deicide for Hostile Takeover, and the Fire Giant waiting in the pit for him.
The Fire Giant and the quadra kill by Tegveer. So much damage from this Neath. It feels like Hostile Takeover has been playing the whole game for this moment. And one of the things I really wanted to talk about, but just couldn't get the time in that last second, was despite how out of it Hostile Takeover has felt in these fights, they kept gold close. This whole game, right? We were both talking about that. What that did was it kept itemization online for Hostile Takeover. So there, attack speed, by the way. Am I right? they were able to have everything online for that fight. They weren't as far behind as I think Butt Lovers thought they were. It seemed like Butt Lovers just kind of called it a wash, and they're like, oh, we just wiped this fight. But they used the Anubis ult really early, and that was why I talked about that right before the fight. They've been using that ult kind of deeper into fights as a cleanup tool to sort of answer back that mid-fight aggression the Hostile Takeover's team is so good at, because they can sustain through fights that you talked about in picks and bans. Instead, you use the Anubis ultimate right away, and you got value, sure, but look what it ends up being. You had nothing up for once Tegvir said, oh, but what if I held left click? And here's the really cool thing about Neith, right? Her aspect gives her so much attack speed. You have so much damage from the Transcendence and the Titan's Bane, plus the stats from going Blinking Abyss. Tegvir goes a Magi's here. It's not going to affect his damage at all.
Now, Tegvir, the 4-4 and 5 slash line kind of betrays it. Honestly, even the damage, like being fourth on the charts, it kind of betrays how important that last fight was, and how
he got like
big
10k in the last fight or something ridiculous.
Yeah, realistically, it was that's the difference maker, right? Now, Tegvir has been comfortable on this Neith all day. I will give the Apollo a ton of credit because I think we've seen Inferno be a massive part of these fights. Aggressive ults looking for kills, but that last ult is part of the reason things went so awry, right? Going in as deep as they did. Oh, it just, I don't know, it just ripped them all apart. And now again with this Fire Giant. You've got 4 with belts on. Rat Milk does not have it. And with that tier 2 in mid taken down, the only towers left are over on the right-hand side of the map. Not really where you want to be focused this late into the game. So 34 minutes in, this is already longer than game 1. It's going to be about Phoenix Siege slash defense. And it's a Phoenix that doesn't have a lot going for it, thanks to that last Fury. You've got the Horus ult coming in. It's just Horus who zones it out. That's actually really well done, though, because it makes him fall back and opens up wide and easy Phoenix. And the best one to get, the left side bird, forced by a retreat and Hostile Takeover, locking in for the latter half of this late game.
Sometimes you might hear, when you're watching competitive with comms or you're watching people queue ranked, you might hear solo laners and ADCs talk about, oh, I gotta go grab my tier 1, or you might see say, hey, go get your tier 1. This is a good reason why. 35 minutes into the game, Hostile Takeover turns the game on its head. They're so close to being able to come back in and potentially even win this game now. But they had to keep their siege a little bit tempered, a little bit tame, because a tier 1 is up all the way in right lane. By the way, that gold swing is absurd. Literally a mountain that just went underwater.
That's a roller coaster that most people would love to ride on. That is a thrill ride.
Hey, Gormizer, I found Atlantis. It's underneath the blue chart. But you leave the tier 1 tower up. Now you kind of have to slow things down. It's pretty easy to go grab that tier 1 at some point, but with how Titans have been changed in some of the most recent updates, you have to respect towers being up. The Titans are just so much tankier in comparison.
Yeah.
EFG, it matters a little bit less, especially because by the time EFG is up, we're probably getting into 3k potion territory. So admittedly, that will matter less. But for that last normal Fire Giant and a Siege where you got the wipe, but respawns are coming up, you just couldn't take that risk. So now the tier 1's cleaned up, tier 2's available. Big for Hostile Takeover. They can get a lot of vision advantage here. You notice no sentries in pocket for Butt Lovers, so Hostile Takeover will have all the ward coverage they need to know what's going to go down. But Hostile Takeover, step it up quick, Gore.
Damage is going to be there. They're separated. This is actually the best space. Hostile Takeover, find them and isolate. Admittedly, they isolated Butt Lover, who is not who we wanted to see them isolate, but they got good damage. They got the Relic, and Force eats down, and Force eats into the ground as they find the kill. Tegvir, again, going big. Apollo, Inferno, going to be one of the primary targets, and right now just trying to dance around, stay alive, and Karmic does so through the Anubis ult. Raspy losing one of their major tools in this game, and losing 2 of his teammates, as well as his own life now, with 5 still strong, running down the midline Phoenix. Inferno already low. Aphrodite ult used to stay alive, but stunned and killed thanks to the Wash, and now walking it down despite the odds, despite the background. It is game 2 and the finals win for Hostile Takeover.
So many crazy things at the end. The rat milk double off the Apuash stun. But I told you that heal, man! It was gonna come back to bite them on the Apuash 3. That the fleeting breath is very, very fleeting. You don't want to mess with it, but even before that, Karmic danced around the Anubis ult for so long that as the Anubis ult ended, Happen ulted down and got the knockup that kept Karmic alive in the last fight. That difference, that little tiny thing, kept the left side, strong side going, while the rest of Hostile Takeover, we saw Ratmilk and Tegvir take the 2v1 in the right lane. That ultimate from Teg, the World Weaver connects on Eats, he falls and everything crumbles from there. In Hostile Takeover, they really had it brought to them. And I don't want to, in any world, do I want any credit to be lost from Butt Lovers, because this is a team that quite literally came out of nowhere, was formed in the past week from scraps of a previous team, and made it to finals against not just a great Smite Prime team, but one of the best Smite 2 teams that we have had in the entirety of Smite 2 so far, and took them to the distance in this game, and really made them work for it. Game 1, obviously, a little bit different. I think a lot of that can be attested to the Newt. So overall, the Butt Lovers should feel so good about how they played this set.
The thing that really stands out to me, and it's exactly what you said, right? Game 1, there was a lot of good, but you could tell there were moments where it got out of hand. Butt Lovers started out well, and then there were some things that it's just hard to do. And it's stuff that you have to learn to do as a team that take a lot of time. Farming from behind, how do you handle a team that's playing super aggressive in your face when you're 10k down, things like that. This is the game. If I'm them, I'm watching this one back because there's so much good in this. And really, the problems that show up, the reason Hostile Takeover win, in my mind, is because of these last couple of fights, right? Just being able to find those moments where they finally separate them. They keep them from being a death ball and keep them from finding that advantage. You had mentioned, Raspy using the ult a little early. I think being able to get Fenrir to, push out of the fight super early and kind of stopping that ult from being effective. Like, there was just a lot that Hostile Takeover did well at the very end. Like, it's literally in what, about 4 maybe 5 minutes, it feels like it all collapses, and it is just a couple of fights that they really dug their heels in. But as mentioned, and as worth mentioning again, it is still a win, and despite the good look from Butt Lovers and a great name, that does mean that they are eliminated.
Such a good
now.
name.
2-0, and the finals go to Hostile Takeover. They are the victors today, and they look pretty darn good doing it. That last one, admittedly, after some of the games we saw, some of the more clown fiestas we saw, that one was about as competitive as it could have possibly gotten.
It ended up strong. And you know what's crazy? I know we're going to talk about it in literally 2 seconds. That's the start of our weekend. 2 days of Smite Prime now, so it only gets up from here. What an addition and what a start.
Before we talk about that, we'll call that a thread. We're a little spoilers, right?
Ooh,
laying
I
it
like
down
that.
for the future. As we instead look at what these guys were playing for to begin with. The way things have been going, you got several weeks here in the June circuit, and of course you're trying to do as much as you can in the process. $5,000 right there. You can find out more, of course, read more, and if you want to play and get a team together, you can go to smiteprime.com and jump in whenever you decide you want to, except for the last week, but that's because things are a little different down there. This is what we saw today. Of course, we watched a lot of Hostile Takeover, a little bit of Chingle Blorgen, who got removed by Butt Lovers. Some fun names today. That's the other thing that happens when the bragging gets blown up from teams that show up.
That semifinals must have been cinema. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I mean, isn't Chingle Blorgen Butt Lovers the
wild.
Offspring song? Isn't that the opening?
That might win for joke of the day. That's really, really good. But as we saw, Hostile Takeover, the 2-0 betrays how competitive that last one was.
But Malum Chair 2, they said.
It'll be a good idea, they said. Surely he'll cast with Gord. They'll do it all well together. As we mentioned, though, tomorrow there is more Smite Prime going on, and it's happening a little bit earlier. We've got the EU Joust that is going to be coming on around 9 a.m. Eastern. You can put that into Google to figure it out when that is for your time zone, because I don't know time zones super good, and so I can't explain it all for you. I know Europe is 5 or 6 hours ahead, and Japan is 12 or 13, depending on which part part of the year we're in. So figure it out for where you happen to be. It is going to be an early morning. And of course, they're going to be playing, as you can see, pretty much, I believe it's every Sunday for a long time, as you see based on the dates there. Starting tomorrow, though, with EU in the morning. Malum, I know you're excited for it. It also brings in a different balance to the equation, right? The joust aspect of it. Different map, different builds, different metas, different everything, as you would maybe expect to the normal circuitry matchups.
Plus, it's Dilo and Musi, I believe, doing EU Joust, so usually they're the two that go haywire. They get called into John Smite Prime's office, so I think we've set the bar high, which means they have a lot to get higher than. And the best part is, since we're the ones who are going to give feedback, look out for casting review feedback content coming out for Smite Prime, selfless ad for Smite Prime. Since we're the ones doing the review, we get to be hypocrites and yell at other people for being unprofessional and immature, and then we get to come on and be like, yeah, we're big butt guys, baby! And that is the summarization of our Saturday.
That's what tenure buys you. That's what being here for a long time opens up, is the goodwill or something like that. But from myself and Malum and everyone, of course, back in production, everyone who played today, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Make sure you follow Smite Prime. You can go to the website, Discord, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it at this point, any of the socials, all of that's good stuff. You can follow them to find out when all of these tournaments are going on, and of course to keep track of everything is. But again, from all of us here, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll catch you tomorrow for some EU Joust.